Breaking all units, fire it with pick your target. Want to stabilize the gold fist. Anybody cover me. I don't explosive on my tail. Gotta hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. Okay. Wait for reinforcements.
See Thrawn on a vintage card is awesome. I would prefer a live action one.
Oh, geez. Oh, my goodness. So I'll keep it away from my dog.
Don't go and do that, please.
You do whatever you like.
We can't condone anything of the sort.
No, we can't. Live! Live!
It's live!
Bravo!
Peak lad.
The memes are strong in you.
Oh, yes.
Bro, take a bow, sir. Take a bow.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome. I hope you've all recovered. Well, all three of you have recovered from that remarkable intro. Once again, cooked up by the man, the myth, the legend that is Daniel East 1000. Thank you, sir.
It's all right. I thought we all needed to wake up on this early morning for some.
Yeah, it is very, very early. One of the earliest I think we've done. It's 9 a.m. British summertime, and I use that term very, very loosely. Given Storm Babette is tearing through our houses at the minute. I'm surprised we're not all here from Ottagunga as it stands. And I think it's about, what is it, about 5:30, 6 o'clock for you over in the land of Oz? Because we've got, once again, the Forces with Jesse with us. How you doing, mate?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, good. Yeah, it's 6:30 p.m. Saturday evening. So, yeah, I've already gone out and I've done a day's work. And, yeah, so if I get the yawns halfway through, I apologize. I will do my best to turn around and yawn away from the camera. Because they are contagious.
I think we'll be right there with you, to be fair.
Yeah. Time travel of a Saturday morning, everybody.
That's it. I was saying to James this morning before we got started, I was like, I really, really wanted to snooze my alarm for 10 minutes. And then I thought, no, because if I do that, it's going to be a mad rush. And then given the technical difficulties that we had at the beginning of this, I think we did all right. So yeah, no real particular theme or anything to this stream. It was just an excuse for the three of us, the four of us rather, to get together and just have a good old chat about the wars, really. Because there hasn't been a ton in the way of new product reveals. So there's not a whole lot to talk about on that front. But as we've been discussing Star Wars, in the run up to this stream, we have come up with a few ideas and a few talking points and topics. So we'll get into all of those in a little bit. But before we do, what is new with you guys in the world of Star Wars? What have you been picking up? So here's the floor is yours. Here's the chance to share.
I'll let you gentlemen.
That tumbleweed's there again. Look.
I don't want to be rude. I think
Yeah, we'll go
Jesse
with you,
first.
Jesse. What's new for you? What have you been picking up recently, mate?
Well, the newest ones this week I got were this guy, Hu Yang, in Black Series. So he's a nice one. I got him. And I did get the vintage collection Morgan Elspeth, complete with absolutely zero accessories, which is probably the only downfall. But yeah, recently just sort of trying to keep up being the preemptive word there, trying to keep up with everything that's sort of dropping. But probably my favorite is Mr. Starkiller here. I know my camera is rubbish, so.
Such a jealous boy. Such a jealous boy.
It's going to be a long wait for Christmas.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be...
It's a contender for figure of the year, at least like for nostalgia reasons. Yeah, but the other contender for me is Padawan Ahsoka.
Oh, gotta agree with you there.
It's just prime. Timing of release, perfect. Just the way it's all come together, they've nailed it. They've nailed that one. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I did get the Boba Fett Monopoly yesterday as well, which I'll never play.
Are you like
No,
me? Are
I'm
you
not.
just?
My
Are you
my girlfriend got it for me, even though I said no, don't get it. I don't need it. I don't need Boba Fett Monopoly. And I came home from work last night and she bought it for me. So she's a sweetie. So
Is that because you're worried that it'll turn you into an absolute savage like Monopoly always turns people into?
well, I'm not the one that gets savage because I'm the one that always wins. So
Oh, competitive talk.
There it is. No, he's just the next time we get him on one of these streams after he's had a game, he's just going to be sat there as the ultimate capitalist. He's just going to be there like, all the property is mine. Are you a little bit like me, Jesse? Are you a monopoly collector where you'll buy them all, but they just sit gathering dust and only get played at Christmas?
Not necessarily. Like, this is my first one again now because I did have a couple of others which I left in the cupboard with the ex-wife about a year and a half ago. So I hope she's enjoying them. Perhaps to be honest, but yeah. So I'm gonna have one copy of Monopoly in the house at least.
Yeah,
I know there are because there's Monopoly for everything now.
I was just about to say, yeah.
I better buy one myself then.
Well, I've still got my episode 1 Monopoly from 1999.
Wow.
It's been opened but never played. Literally never touched.
In true collector style.
Yeah, exactly. So
I just think it's just a bummer now that they don't do like metal tokens. They're just little cardboard pictures of Boba Fett. I'm like, oh, that's boring.
Oh, bugger that.
That's cheap. That's nasty.
But it was $20, so it's like, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a whole collection. I'll tell a lie. I've got the episode 1 Monopoly, and then for the PC, I've got Star Wars Monopoly from '97, which has been played because it was the closest thing I had to a Star Wars video game at that point. And then we've got like a ton of Monopolies. We've got like Game of Thrones. We've got Nightmare Before Christmas. We've got a Kiss Monopoly, for crying out loud. You know, we're really on the money with that one.
I could get on board that.
Yeah, I don't know what. Again, it's another one that we've not opened and not played, so I've no idea what the stuff is there that's going to be buying. Is it going to be like Paul Stanley's guitar? Is it going to be Gene Simmons' heels? Like, what the hell is the? I don't get what's going on there, but there we go. We have got some guys in the chat. Alex has arrived. Hello, Alex. Thank you for joining us on this wet and windy morning or evening, depending where you are in the world. Sorry if you're in the US, because I did not realize until I posted yesterday on Instagram that this is a bloody late/early one for you if you're on the Pacific or Eastern side of the States. Damn, I do apologize. So if you're watching this on replay, welcome aboard. Yeah, Dan, what have you been picking up, mate? Because I know a lot of your stuff's not really been Star Wars themed, has it?
Oh no, it's just too much stuff coming out. I can't keep up with it. A lot's been added to the Christmas list because Spenny. But Amazon, before I get into non-Star Wars, Amazon Prime Day,
Hey.
21 quid? Yeah, it's 21 quid for this. Big old chunk. Well chuffed I've held out on him. So yeah, it's to be fair, he's worth 33 anyway. But
yeah,
it's solid.
You know, anything to save the pennies for more figs is always lovely. So yeah, well chuffed with him, and I probably won't get round to reviewing him, even though I really want to, because that's a running trend with me. Because
preaching to the choir there, man.
I know that's the problem. I can't keep up with it, so I'm just like, I'm happy with him. Oh, we got this spindly boy, of which, yeah, pain in the arse, but I do love him. So it's
I saw Lance Peter Luke's review of it, and I'm like, that's all I need to know, but I'm still going to get 2.
That's exactly
me.
what I thought.
That's me.
I don't need money anymore.
It's lovely, but them damn shoulder pads, like, you look at it and they just fall off. So, yeah, we'll be careful with him. So, well chuffed with that. Now, it is sort of Star Wars related, because if you want to follow what the canon is, originally from the comic book that he appeared in, we got all the Indiana Jones figures I got myself all the Indiana Jones figures. I got myself all the Indiana Jones figures. Even this guy that appears for all of about 10 minutes in the film.
If even that, and what a weird casting choice! Like, wow, Antonio Banderas is going to
And
be
it's
in
got
it.
my
he's
favourite part. There we go. Antonio Banderas. And who else? We've got Grail Knight. I love this one.
That looks cool.
He's
that.
dope. Also Snyder. I did not see that one coming. And also, this one that I had to buy twice because I saw it and I was waiting on my pre-order. I was like, oh no, I need him now. So I've got another one carded because it's more boxed because it's with my pre-order. But yeah, oh, what a beautiful boy.
So you've been eating rice and beans for the last week, then?
Pretty much, yeah. Worth it though because you get to build. Oh god, this is precarious. Oh, careful now.
Steady.
Oh, because it's the Grail table. I will be doing a review on this. I'll be reviewing them all. I have literally just posted a review of Jurgenvalov, which went up last night. So if you want to see that, you can give a little watch on my channel. But yeah, this thing is
all the little glass cups on the table there. Is that where you've been eating your rice and beans from?
it's one bean. It'll fit one bean, so I just put it on there, and it's like,
That's all you need.
delicious. I'm saving my pennies. Cosy living crisis. Love that. So yeah, that's been me spending wise.
Happy days.
Yeah.
What about you, James? What you've been picking up? I think you've been in the same boat, haven't you, with the indie stuff? You've been.
Yeah. I wasn't going to show them off a second time, but I got that indie wave. Very bittersweet that it's all but confirmed to be the last wave. I guess it is what it is at the end of the day. Star Wars has been doing me good though.
Nice.
Oof.
What's your overall verdict on that one? Because I'm like, I want to pick it up, but there's a ton of figures coming out in the minute that I want a little bit more. But certain reviews
share us an image of the plot.
Hey. I'll go to jail for that.
Oh baby, need to go to the toilet. Bye.
Oh dear. No, I like it. To be honest, it's a really good figure.
Cake.
Likeness. The likeness on the face is particularly good.
Okay.
This bad boy, not as bad as we all bitched about a few live streams ago.
Yeah, I was just about to say that when you talk about bittersweet, that is the definition for me.
Yeah, understandable.
But then I'm watching reviews on it, and I'm thinking, do you know what? With the helmet on and what have you, it doesn't look too bad.
That's it. And whether it's definitely not engineering, it's most definitely mold degradation because they've used the mold that many times. But it can actually stand up compared to the others that share the body.
That's good.
No, it looks all right. Like I say, keep the helmet on because it looks like it's got no neck otherwise. But
yeah,
it's quality. I got Hu Yang as well.
Nice.
That's cool.
Everyone's favourite Hu Young.
If you know, you know.
Brilliant stuff.
And then everybody's favourite theory of the year.
The Rusty Boy.
Yeah.
Oh look, it's Kanan Jarrus.
I think you'll find it's Ezra Bridger.
It's Barry Sophie, actually.
Sam Whitworth.
Kanan's Rocket.
It's Asajj Ventress. It's George Lucas. It's the 1999 Denver Broncos.
It's my idea.
He's just a green fart.
Yeah.
Green space fart.
The green gas.
That's kind of it for figures. I got this, which you guys might have seen on Instagram.
Yeah.
But I'm more happy about this than I probably should be.
Understandable.
I get it.
But it's just cool, man. and it's crazy to look back and see some of this scary shit. Whoever they employed to dress up as Anakin had already had enough by the time they took that picture.
I feel like Obi-Wan's staring directly into my soul as well.
Yeah.
Wherever these are, Toys R Us, I'm still waiting for them. Probably got lost in the post by now, but I entered that too many times not to win something as a kid. So,
were they those life-size statues?
Yeah, those gentle giant life-size pieces.
Bloody hell. Whoever got them is a lucky man.
Yeah.
Or they, them, whatever. Yeah, good stuff. It's been a really, really slow couple of months for me. I've picked bugger all up in the way of new stuff. I've been back on my Power of the Force binge, and that's partly your fault, Mr. Forces with, because I did pick up a long wanted duo. I do have these two carded. In the Power of the Force collection, but I'm like, yeah, do you know what? I need to get them out. I need to get them loose, because just to have that set up on the shelf after 20 years, because this is another figure set that I had when I was a kid. So to get them out again is just mint, and I'm loving them.
Like you said pre-show, just the coincidence, the fact that I just dropped the video of it yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, yes.
My weekly Power of the Force videos. Like,
yeah. If you haven't done so already, guys, if you're watching, go and check out Jesse's Power of the Force Friday series, because that is responsible for a lot of the restored love that I have for that line. But yeah, like I said, been pretty slow week in terms of new releases. I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to a friend from work though, because he's just got a new resin 3D printer. And it was telling me about this the other day at work, and I said, "Oh, sarcastically and hypothetically, I'm just gonna have to send you loads of things that I want 3D printing." And he's like, "Yeah, do it. We'll see what we can do." A few days later, boom, there we go.
Yeah, it's nice.
So this is the guy who pre-ordered the Jabba's Throne Room playset, because this is 3 3/4 inch scale, if you couldn't already tell. But this is the guy who pre-ordered the 3 3/4 inch Jabba's Throne playset from Hasbro Pulse, and after pre-ordering it, decided, I don't know where the fuck I'm going to put that, so I'm going to cancel that pre-order because it's also 250 quid. So I've got no idea where it's going to go. It's going to cost me way too much money, so we'll cancel that. So to have at least a brief snippet of that in the collection is nice, and I've got to say the quality on this thing, so shout out to Connor if he's watching. This is mental. The quality on this is absolutely nuts. It's smooth. I can't stop rubbing it. It's really, really good. And this is awaiting a paint job from one Mr. Daniel East 1000. So
I'm sure it'll be a joy of miniature painting.
That's it.
Oh, do you see what I did there? Oh. No one watches it. It's fine.
We do, mate. But yeah,
I watch it, Dan. It's all right.
There will be a Joy of Miniature Painting video coming up on that, and I can't wait to get that finished and into the collection. So yeah, like I said, it's been pretty slow for me, and it's been a pretty slow sort of news week as well. We haven't had many new toys to talk about really that have been revealed by Hasbro, but the few things that we did get, I think, are probably a bit of a mixed bag for us all, really, aren't they? So we're going to talk about it, but we do have the Black Series Holocom collection. Now, when these got announced a couple of weeks back, I don't know about you, gents, but I thought, oh, for God's sake, another gimmick. Another gimmick. This is going to go the same way as the credit collection. This is going to go the same way as all the holiday figures. Like, why are they just doing this? Why are they putting the money and the effort into a line that, quite honestly, no one asked for? But the more I look at some of these, I mean, there's issues. There's definitely issues. But the more I look at some of these, the more I'm thinking, do you know what? I kind of like them. So, I mean, in terms of issues, I think character selection above all else is the main gripe that most people have with these figures. But what are your guys' thoughts on these? Like, are you in? Are you out? Like, what are you feeling?
So, the more I look at them, the more I want to stick my head in a bucket. That's just my 2 cents. That's, I'm not going to object to anyone else's feelings on them. Like, it's fine. It is what it is. I don't know. I just think, they just did. My theory is that they just did the Spirit Ghost Jedi figures, like they did Qui-Gon, they did the new Yoda, Anakin, and Obi-Wan, and they've just got like a truckload of clear blue plastic, and they're just like, what are we going to do with all this clear blue plastic? It's like, oh no, we'll just cast some of their old crap and put it out in a box.
Yeah,
so that's my thoughts anyway. I just think the character selection is really silly. Like, if you were to do this with like a Vader, a Palpatine or something, have like a molded Palpatine come out, and it's like, that would be cool. Like, that would look good on the shelf. And like being able to have like a Darth Vader crouching in front of it, that'll look sick. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, doing all the accessories and all that sort of stuff. It's just weird.
Yeah,
it's just weird. That's my thoughts. But
no,
yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I can appreciate that. I mean, I think for me, it's partly a nostalgia thing, because I'm like the same as you guys. I'm of that generation that remembers sort of 2005 onwards and hologram figures being a big thing. And back in the day, I didn't mind an occasional hologram figure. So it's nice to see them back in a roundabout sense. And I like the idea of the little, you've got the bounty puck and you've got the light and all that sort of stuff. It's cool. It's a little bit more creative than like the credit collection and the holiday figures, as far as I'm concerned. It's weird. It's clearly a cash cow. It's a ploy, like you said, Jesse, to get rid of all that excess blue plastic. But I don't know, just as a limited one-off thing, it's fine. Like you said, it's character selection for me. I think, like you said, a Vader, a Palpatine would have made way more sense. A Commander Cody instead of an Axe Woves, because well, like, of all the characters to pick, like the other ones make a little bit of sense in a weird way, but Axe Woves as a hologram, really?
Yeah.
Does anybody?
I would have thought like marketing it towards like, even throwing out like doing an Order 66 pack and do your Palpatine, do some clones.
Yeah.
Even if they're old mold, like the 6-inch Cody, it's still quite an old mold, but it would still pass off as. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. They're sort of probably trying to stick with the marketing of Mandalorian and stuff, but then they give you like Han Solo. Like, it's weird. It's just weird character choice.
It's the right idea. It's just the complete wrong execution.
Yeah,
I probably thought about this more than I should have the other day, and I thought if they'd have come out with something in their roleplay line, like a little holo projector that you see, Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith. Nice little die-cast piece, lots of different sound effects. You don't have to include that stupid little bounty puck in every damn figure box, because, heaven forbid we should have something these days that hasn't been Disney Plussed. And then they could have just released figures of characters that we actually need as holograms, because Hasbro have created this concept that doesn't make sense. Nobody's putting a bounty on the Mandalorian or on Bo-Katan or Axe Woves. Han Solo's really the only one that actually makes sense. There's an Ahsoka one. That's not. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at it in the sense that, obviously you've got the text on the hologram projection itself as well. But I looked at these at first and just thought hologram projector rather than a bounty puck. It wasn't until you guys pointed it out that I was like, oh yeah, it is a bounty puck.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like I'm looking at these and I'm like, you know what, I may, depending how cheap they eventually end up, I may pick up one just to add something a little bit. Because like I said, I like the idea of the light and the holographic projection and all that sort of stuff. Character selection's caca, but I like the idea.
It's the price point that makes absolutely zero sense.
Right.
Because, like, Bo-Katan, wasn't she on Star Action Figures for like 25 quid?
Yeah.
Of which is, I'm down with that because it's got a lighting feature. That's like, yeah, cool. But then you look on Hasbro Pulse, jammy son of bishes, like, isn't it 34 quid for the Mandalorian for an
Yeah.
old ass janky figure?
Yeah.
Come on now, come on Hasbro, stop trying to pull me trousers down. Stop it. Just the prices are just all over the place, and I think that's the biggest problem for me again, and that's pretty much sings home with most of the figures at the minute.
Yeah.
It's just how all over the place the pricing is.
See, my thinking was if they'd have done that little holo communicator as a separate release, they could have done something similar to the Phantom Menace line, where you got those little communication chips that gave you specific sound effects for whatever character you're putting on it.
Mm.
And then what would sell that even further is if they came with Black Series scaled holograms of the figure that you're getting in the pack, so that you can give your figures on the shelf a small little hologram to hold.
Yeah.
Mm.
But we've got this instead, and I don't really care, to be honest, lads.
I mean, I was literally clutching at straws by bringing these up as a talking point because, like, honestly, there's been. I think it's the first time in a while that we've been, between streams and there's been no new product reveals. So it was just a case of I'll just grab those and we'll touch base on them because God only knows everybody's going to want to know our thoughts on these. But yeah, like I said, it's one of those. I appreciate I don't want to say effort because I don't feel like that's the right word.
It's something different for sure.
Yeah, I think it's just something
To a
that,
point.
like I said, for me, it just makes a lot more sense than the holiday figures or the credit collection. It's a gimmick and it's a subline, but it's one that actually, it's not going to look out of place displayed with your other stuff.
Yeah.
So I can't dump on it too much. I just, like I said, I think it's the general consensus is that the character selection should have just been a lot better than it is. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, James, by saying, it's because they want to, continually promote Mandalorian. And at this point,
I guess they're not plagiarizing people's artwork this time. That's a bonus.
That's it. I mean, it's one of those things. It's just move on. There's other Star Wars projects that you can make figures from. Don't pour the budget into these because no one asked for them.
Yeah,
they like repainting and reusing things. You've got like 3 or 4 different clone trooper molds that you could just be slapping different paint onto.
Yeah,
that would sell infinitely better than this.
Han Solo's pose there kind of is like echoing all of our thoughts on the line. It's just
yeah, it's it's not what we were hoping for, Hasbro. It's not what we were hoping for, but there we go.
Not
Enough
a bright
about that.
projection.
While we're on reveals and stuff, did you guys see the loose photos of the Balin skull and the Shin Hati Black Series figures that have popped up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a sizing issue there. There is definitely a sizing issue.
Certainly is. I mean, how are we all feeling on that front? Except the three of us, James and Dan, did briefly touch on this last night when the pictures came out.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm finding it a lot easier to find deal breakers with releases. Like if something like that happens, I'm finding it now a lot easier to say no to stuff. I don't know if the same can be said for you too, but
I can't not buy it. I'm too weak. I'm too weak.
This is the thing. It's going to pain me because I really want it. I really want the figure because Balin Skull, I mean, we've touched on it on these streams numerous times. Balin Skull is one of the most interesting characters to
what a character, yeah.
100%.
Arguably one of the better characters from Ahsoka itself. So it does pain me to see that figure come out and to see how they butchered my boy. I'm just so disappointed.
Yeah. My thought is just like, come on, Hasbro. Like, just dude, like, what are you doing over there? Like, I don't know. But at the same time, I'm like, I know I can fix it. Like, I know I can make that figure better. Like, so I'm going to get it and fix it. I'm going to make him taller. And trying to get him. I know I can do it. I've got the knowledge to be able to do that. Like, I was the one that, some years ago got the Bouche Leia and chopped her legs down, made it so she was the same height as all the other layers in the collection, so she wasn't like the same height as Han Solo.
But that just
and then like 2 years later, they fix it and put it out. So
and this is what feeds into my like I said, the easier that I'm finding it to pass on figures that I'm not 100% sold on, because I know in a couple of years' time it's probably going to get fixed and re-released. So I'm willing to bide my time. I'm willing to take the risk that, I think it's just easier to do because I'm running out of space.
That's like, when they'll drop the deluxe version with the cloak.
Yeah, well, I'll get that, because I too am weak.
I don't understand it though, because it's not like it's a physicality thing. They've got the actor there. They've got pictures of how tall he is. It's not like they've just had some concept art and they've made, with like the Captain Rex Bad Batch figure they did, and they gave him, like, it's not like they've made a little inaccuracy like that. In context, they've got a picture of the actor next to other actors. How can you get that so undersized?
Yeah. It just makes you wonder, like, what happened, whether was it a production error and they just got too far along in the process to correct it? Because that to me is the only, sane explanation, that it just, there was some sort of issue with the mold or with some form of production rather than design. And when they got it, they were like, "Oh, damn! Look what we've done. We've buggered it up."
I've got a sneaking suspicion that it's got something to do with them swapping the thigh cut for this new articulation. I don't think they're allowing the right amount of plastic between how they used to engineer figures to what they're doing now, because the Black Series Cad Bane is smaller than he should be, and he's particularly a tall character, and he doesn't have that thigh cut. And ironically, if they'd have kept the thigh cut in, every 3D printer in the land could have just printed a small little mushroom cap, bit of hot water, pop it off, on you go, done, fixed it, see you later. But no,
but
there'll be a fix. There'll be some way of fixing it, but
they pulled it off with Malgus though, because obviously Malgus is a big, chunky, beefy, tall boy, and he doesn't.
Yeah, true.
Malak too.
He's like just huge in every element of his design, though, I suppose, and the other characters are more humanoid.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out my backside. It won't be the first time, but it sucks. But I've got to have it.
Yeah, it's one of those. Isn't it?
Thing I just get frustrated about is when you get the vintage, the TVC purists out there that are like, "Oh, why does Black Series get these figures first?" And it's just like, well, it's a half-assed job anyway. Like, do you want a half-assed job in your vintage? Like, I guarantee with the vintage one come out, it'll come with a cloak. It'll be accurate sizing.
Yeah,
it'll be so much better than what I collect both, so it's
they'll be sat there laughing at us, won't they? Oh, that Black Series Balin skull that they got. Yeah, it's the wrong size. That's what they like.
But so that sort of thing frustrates me. I'm like, but it's a half-assed figure anyway. But
I think
I'm a piece of crap, and I'm going to buy it anyway. So
you made a pretty good point there, Jesse, though, about the vintage collection one. Like, that's I'm in the same boat as you. I do collect both. Black Series more so than vintage, because like we said on the last stream, I have pretty much exhausted all my display options for 3 3/4 inch at this point. But when that vintage collection one does come out, because it's inevitable, it is going to happen. We know it's going to happen. I think there's been too much of a positive reception to Balin Skull as a character for it not to happen.
Huge.
So I'm with you. I'll probably end up getting the vintage collection one, and I will agree it will probably end up being 110% better than the Black Series one. If and when that Black Series one does get updated, great stuff. I'm all for it. And it is like I said, it's really, really going to pain me to see that figure sitting on a shelf in a store and not get it. Maybe there'll come a time when I do see it and go, do you know what? I'm willing to look past it, but right now is not that time. yeah, very, very disappointing. And like you say, it just makes you wonder, like, what is going on over there? Like, get it together, guys. Come on.
I feel like they rushed a lot of the Ahsoka figures out as well, just to try and get them out within a certain time period of the show coming out. But
yeah, which I'm grateful for, to be honest. Like, to be able to have, you know, Hu Yang like come out like within, you know, a couple of weeks of the series ending. It's like, this is cool. Like, it's out.
oh yeah,
Like,
it's so good.
rather than waiting 18 months for Cad Bane to come out. Like,
Yeah, well, there's still
Marvel
some Book
can
of
do it.
Boba Fett
Marvel
stuff
can
we
do it.
haven't even got.
Why can't Star Wars?
They need to get it. They need to get it together. Matthew Martin's just popped a comment in the chat, so I thought we'd touch base on this before we move on to our next topic. And Matt Martin's a channel member of yours, I believe, Jesse. So shout out to him. I think he is.
He's good dude, fellow Aussie.
Happy days. That explains why he's up so early then. or late in this case. But he's asking what is the highest on your current want list. So we'll go around the table and discuss that, because I've got a list as long as my arm. James, what's on your radar at the minute, mate?
Oh, I don't know. What isn't on my radar? That's a better question.
I mean, we can open it up. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a new product. It could be something, you know, from the Clone Wars line that you're wanting to grab.
Oh, that works then.
Just in terms of Star Wars merch in general, what are you after? What are you hunting at the minute?
I'm trying to figure out where I want to be with my carded Clone Wars stuff at the minute. So, got about 200 different things in my watch list on eBay. I'm trying to focus on the ones that sort of sing a song of my childhood. And I was just thinking about it the other day, and Christmas 2009 was a good one. I got the figures of Captain Orgaius, Luminara, and Lieutenant Thaya when they single packed him as Commander Thaya. And these are just like, you know, bum releases to have carded to a certain extent when there are so many other hard to get ones. But because it's a particularly fond memory, I feel like I'm trying to get decent versions of them. But as you guys know, it's hard to find things that are over 10 years old that are still in good condition.
Yeah. When
they were predominantly opened and played with. So
it's even harder to find things in good condition that are nearly 30 years old.
That's it. Hot Toys is quiet, so yeah, saving pennies. But other than that, waiting on the next lot of Black Series, I guess. Probably next week, now in the normal run of the mill.
What about you, Dan? What's on your target list at the minute? What are you after?
Too much. Literally too much stuff. I actually want to be sick. There's like, isn't that Gentle Giant Thrawn statue, which looks a bit but I need it. There's too much. Hu Yang, Pre-Vizsla, Ahsoka, Clone Troop. I just want it all. I want it all. I can't do that to myself. I can't do that to myself at the minute. So, yeah, it's a painful time to be Dan. But I think for me, yeah, probably Hu Yang is the one that I want the most, if I can find him.
What about you, Jesse? What are you hunting down? What are you trying to track down at the minute?
Oh, the Boba's Palace playset. I had neglected to pre-order it when it was available down here in Australia, so I've missed the boat on that release. Word is they're going to get more. I do need to get back in touch with Straight Out of Coruscant. I can see he's in the chat there. He got a second one. So I need to get in touch with him again and see how much it would cost to ship down here. I imagine it'd be quite a bit. But I've got space on my shelf for that playset. And yeah, like I said, I was just when it was up for pre-order, I just wasn't in the financial spot to put a pre-order down on it. So I sort of neglected it, and then it was just sort of all gone. And yeah, no more have shown up. So trying to track one of them down, I'm happy to pay whatever. Like, you know, not a stupid
within
moment,
reason.
but
Within reason.
Within reason. I don't want to be going on Facebook. I need it for a reasonable price. It's for my son. But I've got the space on the shelf waiting for it. I've got all my Jabba's Palace set up. I'm ready to fill that shelf space. So
Is that your ultimate aim then with that? Is that to put together a Jabba's Palace rather than a Boba Fett throne room?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what's going to be the plan? Because you're one of the I think you're the only one out of the four of us that has the sail barge. So I would imagine that a lot of your Jabba's Palace figures are displayed within that at the minute.
Yes, I've got a lot of there's a few duplicates, characters like Rees and stuff like that. There's a couple more I'd like to get doubles of, like Yak Face. Some of the more current ones. The other 4-pack that's just come out with the Velkin Zeri and all that. That's another pack I need to get. So yeah, a lot of the sort of the Jabba's sail barge goons are all up with the barge and the skiffs. Whereas like the Cantina band, there's some Gamorrean guards. They're all part of the palace there. So we've still got a nice sort of even split between the characters that go in those scenes. But there's definitely a couple there that could cross over and have duplicates of. So
good stuff. Cool.
Yeah, one day I will achieve it.
Like I said, the list for me is as long as my arm at the minute. I'm covered in wants from the Black Series, which I'm hoping to tick a few off on my trip to Dublin next week. I was saying to the guys, they've got a massive Forbidden Planet. Their Star Wars section looks insane, so I'm hoping by the time I get there, they've got Sabine, the Black Series, Sabine, Jules and Vader I still need to pick up, Pre-Vizsla I still need to get. Thankfully, thanks to a certain Mr. RoboQuiff Collects, I do have the Padawan Ahsoka on the way, so thank you for that, my friend.
Nice.
All good.
So that one's ticked off the list. And yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of Black Series. I wouldn't mind the new R2 as well. I'm still on the hunt for that. I'm waiting for Smiths to get that in because that's been listed as coming soon for about 6 months. What else? And yeah, like I said, the rest of it is just like Power of the Force stuff, really. I'm hoping to do what you've done, Jesse, and complete the Bounty Hunter lineup. So I've currently got Forlorn, Bosk, and Zuckuss all on my eBay watch list. I'm trying to get a few more sort of large set pieces for the Power of the Force collection as well. So like the Beasts, I've got the Ronto and the Dewback on my watch list as well. I did tick off a Grail recently. I did finally manage to get a Dark Trooper, so I'm happy about that.
That's a good one.
And I was just scrolling through eBay the other day and managed to find, by some miracle, the 30th anniversary collection Cantina Band tin set, which we've spoke about on the side quest stream we did a while back at length. So if you know, that's something that I need. That's something that I want. And that's the guy who's selling it is selling it for, I think, about 50 quid, which is one of the cheapest that I've seen so far. And he sent me an offer the other day for 45, and I'm like, huge.
Is the plan to open or is the plan to keep?
No, the plan is to keep it as is.
Because I recently just sold the figures because I updated my Cantina band with the new one.
Yeah,
the new TVC one.
I mean,
but I kept the tin, so I've still got that.
Yeah,
tin, which is cool. But yeah,
that's the thing. I think for me, it's just a piece that I need in the collection because of what it means to me as a collectible. Again, if you've seen the side quest stream, if you've not, go check it out. But we speak at length about that. So it'll be an inbox piece because I've got, for the most part, I've got a full. You can't really see it very well. It's not a full lineup because I didn't get the Hasbro Pulse exclusive box set. I just went and got a load of cheap vintage collection figurine Dans and just distributed the instruments. So I've got a Cantina band that I'm happy with. I don't need the full amount and it to be screen accurate. That's fine for me. And then obviously I've already got the Power of the Force 2 mail away figure. So yeah, I'm not really bothered about opening it up, but it is just something that I just need to get into the collection because it is something that I've wanted for so long. Even though I have other iterations of it, it is something that I would really, really like. So yeah, that's just about it really for me. New releases and old stuff. Really, I still need to get a Rebel Fleet Trooper as well. That's up there on the list. For the Power of the Force 2. But yeah, that's pretty much it really in terms of in terms of wants. We've got Chris Harris in the chat. He is off to Star Wars. Like, wait, he's off to Galaxy's Edge soon. Very jealous.
Awesome.
Jammy sod. Oh,
Not
that's
at
on the
all
bucket list, that is.
But yeah, speaking of like latest pickups and wants and all that sort of stuff, because it was slim pickings in terms of new Hasbro products to talk about on this edition of the stream, I've sort of delved into something that we don't usually tend to touch on too often on these streams, because we are, for the most part, primarily Hasbro collectors. But I think, you know, one or two of us do dabble in the higher end stuff. So I wanted to bring to your guys' attention a couple of Gentle Giant items that have been recently announced.
Oh, yeah.
And this is going to lead us into our next topic. So yeah, Gentle Giant recently announced a Premier Collection Grand Admiral Thrawn on throne figure or statue. Try and say that when you add a few. And a Hondo Anaka bust. Now I know that one of these things is going to appeal to at least one person on this panel, and the other is probably going to appeal to the other person. So, guys, we'll just go around the room again. What's your thoughts? What you feeling? I think I know what you're feeling, Dan, but keep that to yourself.
Feeling broke.
Scared and horny.
Now, me and Gentle Giant have had a falling out. We're not friends anymore.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah, because the arseholes decided to release that Pre-Vizsla bust as a San Diego Comic Con exclusive this year after teasing it at different shows for like 18 months. And, oh, it's coming soon, and then it wasn't at Celebration. To the point where I got given the email of like the company's CEO to ask the question. He's like, oh, it's definitely still coming. We just didn't have it on display because of all of this stuff that was relevant. It's like, oh, that's cool. I'm really happy to see it's still coming. Yeah, guess what? It's coming. You can't have it though. So yeah, I don't know. I've sold some of my my Gentle Giant busts recently. I'm thinking about selling some more. Doesn't take away from how good some of them are, but the old autism flare up means if I can't have all of them, I can't have any of them. So
I must
same
admit,
for the
that being said about some looking better than others. I think we spoke about again briefly the other day just how hit and miss a lot of current Gentle Giant stuff seems to be. Like, I mean, this stuff, the statues and the occasional bust do look really, really good. But we briefly touched on it earlier with Dan, but that sort of, what is it, like a half scale, quarter scale bust of Thrawn that's just come out that's based on Lars Mikkelsen. The likenesses are not on point when it comes to Gentle Giant recently. I'm not sure what's going on, but like I was in Forbidden Planet in London the other month, and seeing the new Cassian Andor bust from Rogue One that they've brought out, and Count Dooku, and a number of other human portraits in particular, it's like
that Dooku one's terrible.
Like, where are they getting these from? Like, who's that supposed to be based on? Because it sure as hell ain't Diego Luna or Christopher Lee.
Not quite Phantom levels, but still pretty
not far off, mate. Not far off.
Far off.
Bloody hell. I mean, like, the Hondo one that we've got up on screen now looks absolutely superb. And I think Aliens, animated characters, helmeted characters, they absolutely nail. But yeah, the human likenesses at the minute, if they're lifelike and realistic, they've just not been very, very good. And this is something that baffles me as well, because we were talking the other day, like, I've got I think it's from around 2007, 2008, but it's a light up Obi-Wan Kenobi Force Ghost bust, and the likeness to Alec Guinness on that thing is absolutely spot on. So it makes you wonder, like, where are they going? Like, what sort of issue have they undergone process-wise that's caused them to get to where they are in terms of where the likenesses are at? Because, like I said, they are not good. I mean, I picked these two just as a prime example to touch on, because obviously Thrawn holds a very special place in in one person's heart on this stream. And it is a cracking looking statue as well. I think, I think this is another exclusive. I'm not sure where to. But this, I think, retails for about £180.
Oh my god!
Which I don't think is too bad.
There's a UK Gentle Giant stockist called theGentleGiant.co.uk, and I think they've got it up. They tend to import a lot of the US only stuff. Don't know how much it'll be, but
not sure. But
good place to go.
Yeah, definitely. But it looks really, really cool. I think as a set piece in any collection, that's going to look pretty dope. What about the Hondo bus, James? Is that one for? Well, you already spoke about how you might get rid of some of your other ones.
Yeah, I like the animated Clone Wars ones a lot. I went on a rampage buying them because they were just so like one for one, the animation model. But the one thing that really annoys me when they produce stuff like this, they don't take into account consistency. So they'll have certain characters come out and the bases will be larger than the other one. Or the poses will just be stupidly elaborate. So when you look at something like that and it's in 7th scale, you think, well, that's really cool because space shouldn't be an issue. You should be able to display these rather efficiently. And then they just release ones that have got arms all over the place, lightsabers sticking out, so you can't get anything within a 20-mile radius of the bloody thing. I like this. I don't think it's as good as some of the others, though. I can't see on the picture, but when I was looking at it when it got revealed, I think that the glasses are solid in color instead of being slightly translucent. So it's all right for other collectors, but for me that obsesses over the tiniest little details. No, I think Sideshow Collectibles are hitting the Clone Wars stuff better than most people these days with their 6th scale line.
I was just about to touch on that because obviously with us talking about Hondo and Arca, Sideshow recently revealed the Cad Bane and Todo 360 figure. In the animated Clone Wars style, and when they revealed it in the background of the images, I'd have completely missed it if it wasn't for you, James. But obviously, in the background, we got a couple of hints and teasers at what's to come in that line, and Hondo seems to be in the pipeline.
Hondo, and then Maul with his big old chicken legs,
cheeky leg Maul.
And if they're doing Maul, they've got to do Savage. Got to. So. I'm a happy bunny. A lot of people tend to slag these figures off, but if you spend a bit of time with them, dress them up, pose them properly, I can't fault them really.
Yeah.
They could be better, but they could be bloody worse.
What about you, Jesse? Where do you sit on these? Because I know you've got a few Hot Toys and Sideshow figures in your collection, but as a high end collector, where sort of do you stand? Do you pick up busts and statues, or do you tend to give these a miss?
No, I tend to give them a miss. They've never really been, something that's available here in Australia, or at least at, sort of retail outlets. It's never really been something that's been, readily available. Working where I do, we've sort of got access to wholesale, so we're actually getting a couple of the busts in recently, and I've been pretty impressed. Like we got the Cad Bane from Clone Wars, the Rebels Darth Maul, the Solo Darth Maul, which again, like you're saying, like the realistic likeness, just it's not quite there. Whereas the details on the Rebels Maul is just perfection. Like the lines on the tat, like it looks so nice, but. Then they do the funny thing, and some of them are 1/6 scale, or some of them are 1/7, and they just don't gel together. And if I'm going to buy my thing is, if I'm going to buy a statue, I want the whole thing. I just don't want the top half. Which I guess for Maul it kind of works in a way. But
then you lose the most detailed part. So in a way, you're right, man.
But I like the look of the Thrawn there. He looks good.
He does, doesn't he?
He's gonna be a big boy, isn't he?
Yeah, I saw Star Wars fan Tommy got the throne for his old Sideshow Thrawn the other day, and I said, I hope he calls his chair. I hope he has the name for his chair. I hope he calls it Grand Admiral Throne. I really do. Or his toilet. I don't know.
Grand Admiral Toilet.
There's a cool
pretty much
3D
sums up
printer that's out there at the minute. If people can't afford the statue for like Black
Yeah.
Series or Vintage.
Nice.
Very much eyeing
Speaking
that.
as an advocate of 3D printed items,
What have I
got to
done?
be done. I know. It's kind of your fault, Dan.
I know it is.
But that does lead us in, because we did get another announcement from Gentle Giant. It was around the time, I think it was last weekend. It was New York Comic Con or New York Toy Fair, one or the other. I can't remember. But we got a Gentle Giant bust announced from the Macquarie Concept series, and it's the TIE Fighter pilot. Now, we've touched on our thoughts and feelings and where we stand on Gentle Giant as collectors, but this got my creative juices flowing, because I saw this and I was like, oh, that looks really good. I really like the look of that. That is just like the character design is really, really cool. Like that original Macquarie concept art of the TIE pilots from A New Hope is, you know, just as iconic for me as the Stormtroopers and Vader and Starkiller and all that sort of stuff. And like I said, it just got me thinking, because this is, I believe it was a New York Comic Con exclusive, and it was limited to maybe 400 or 500 pieces. So it's not going to be something that's readily available. So as action figure collectors, we know that Hasbro have touched base on Macquarie concept art and concept art in general over the years with some of their action figure lines. You know, they started it with the 30th anniversary collection with that full run of Macquarie concept figures, and then later on down the line we did get, you know, other figures in the legacy collection. We got, I think, Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon that were based on concept art from the prequels, and then even as recently as the Black series, we've had the Darth Vader and the Obi-Wan Kenobi in the 6-inch line. So that just got me thinking, and it was one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you guys about today, was that if Hasbro were to bring back not necessarily a full run of Ralph McQuarrie concept figures, but if they reintroduced the concept series to their 3 3/4 inch or Black series lineups, what characters would you want to see? What sort of designs would you like to see brought to life in plastic? And we got some pretty interesting results. So we're going to go around once again. Bless you.
Excuse me.
We're gonna nip round the table once again, and touch on some of these, because like I said, we got some rather interesting choices. And one of the things for me is, like, when you go back and you look at some of this concept art, because we're going to touch on concept art from Ralph McQuarrie, from Doug Chang, Ian McCaig. You know, you look at some of this stuff and you think, God, if this made it onto screen, we'd have been watching a very, very different film. So we'll start with you, Dan. Because I think
that's
yours,
a classic choice, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think yours like kind of touch on action
weird.
Yeah. Well, you said it there. There we go. So
I mean, obviously, Maul.
Talk us through this, Dan.
Let's talk you through it. Okay. So I mean, Maul, no explanation needed. He's my boy. And I mean, I've got the 3 3/4 inch version of Maul, because they did do him in the Power of the Jedi line. But I'd love to see a 6-inch boy of that. That would be mint. You know, just such a weird, ornate look for him, which is kind of different to how we usually see him, where he's all in black, or he's got his top off, looking all sassy. And here we have him just a bit more ornate and a bit more like... Maul's whole thing is like being an angry boy. When you look at him in that costume, he's a bit more like, oh, I'm a bit well-to-do. Do you know what I mean? It just adds a different vibe to him. So
almost looks like an idea of like Emperor Maul. So like Emperor was to like if Maul was to like ascend to the top of the Sith chain there instead of Sidious, and
yeah,
you know, sort of take control as ruler. Like he's just all regal and shit.
Yeah, and that was cool. Like an original idea that Lucas had, so you can kind of see how that feeds in, because I think one of the original ideas, source myself, is didn't Lucas have like the idea that he was going to be in the next like trilogy? He would be the leader along with Darth Talon.
Yeah.
That's right. I
But
do
then
remember
it
hearing
was-
that.
Yeah, it was then kind of dumped. So I feel like that kind of maybe fed into possibly the design choice for that.
Mm.
But it just is so weird.
I think what I like about the mall design is that it's almost like like you said, Jesse. It's almost formal attire. So this could have been, and I love what Hasbro did with the figure when they released it in the Power of the Jedi line, is that they called him Sith Apprentice, and it was almost like this is more in his younger days. This is what he was wearing when he was kicking about with Sidious in the early days before the Phantom Menace. But what I really like about it is that it's almost like more not undercover as such, but what he'd wear out and about to normal
dinner.
functions. In everyday life, like if Sidious wanted to dispatch him to a planet to engage in talks with representatives from that planet, this is what he'd wear. He wouldn't go in the hood, he wouldn't go in the black robes, he'd go in something a little bit more.
It's almost like what if Maul was the Count of Serrano and Dooku was not.
Yeah, that's a really good shout, actually.
Oh, yeah, I love that Maul.
Let the ideas flow.
Do we talk about the one next to it though?
Yeah.
Because
who do you think that is?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Because if you were around in 2005, you already know who this dude is. But otherwise, you're probably looking at this and thinking, I would like to see the baby.
So this is an early concept art idea for General Grievous.
Can you imagine?
I mean, he's serving Thrawn vibes. He's serving Thrawn vibes, definitely. There's a bit of
Micro Machines Thrawn.
Yeah, Micro Machines Thrawn. Thrawn when he was a kid. And it's kind of like, I know, reading into some of the like inspiration for that. I think there was a lot of inspiration from Akira, the anime film. And the kid in that has a little hover chair. There's a kid in it that has like a little hover chair. So there was like inspiration with that. The IG-88 droids behind him, they later obviously would become the bodyguards, because Lucas said he wanted him to have bodyguards. So those got changed. But what
I think there might even be another piece of artwork done with Magna Guards behind him.
Oh, is there? Oh, I haven't seen that.
Something that I did as a kid is just constantly watch the behind-the-scenes stuff for Revenge of the Sith when I was bored. So the little clip with this lives rent-free in my head, with George Lucas going around with his little approval stamp. Yeah. Oh, child is a villain. That'd be really creepy. Well, maybe not.
I
love it, man. Love it.
I remember that because I think, didn't they do like a DVD, like 2 DVDs that you got with the Sun?
Yeah.
Trash.
Yeah.
And it's like Lucas going around going, I like this one, I like this one.
Yep.
I don't like this one, and it's
maybe you can use this one somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, both of these show the things that I love about Star Wars is the fact that they recycle stuff. So there's definitely like elements that they've used with, like, obviously Grogu's pram to a point.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it. There's the potential there to see this elsewhere in Star Wars media in the future, because they are, like you said, they're going back to the data bank and they're really pulling stuff out from left field in terms of recycling some of this concept art. I mean, you look through Star Wars Rebels, you look through The Mandalorian, even as recently as Ahsoka, there's been so much stuff that's been conceptualized and then brought to life. It's really cool, and I it would not surprise me to see some form of this somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I just love it. I love it. Just the shapes as well. It's just so separatist. It's like the basis of like, because you've got the circles, the green circle things, like the control panels that they have.
Yeah,
just really.
This
really
is
cool.
It's definitely something that you could have imagined in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, this guy serving alongside in the Separatist army, like Admiral Trench, and you know, have it, you know, strategizing with a tactical droid. It's something you could have pictured.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The idea of, like, you know, he's looking kind of Thrawn like. It's like he looks like, you know, maybe the Confederacy have got this like Chiss baby on board, and you could have tied in like the early days of the Chiss ascendancy. So like when Thrawn comes in later, it kind of makes sense.
Admiral Fisher Price.
I like it a lot. How would you do it as a figure then, Dan? Because like, obviously you've got the IG droids as the bodyguards, and you've got the chair and the baby. Yeah. Would you do it as a full figure set? Would you do it as just the kid in the throne? What?
Full figure set, because you can easily reuse the IG8, like just repack it basically.
Don't encourage them. Don't encourage them. Don't
I
say
shouldn't.
That.
I know,
Don't
because they can do a better IG unit for sure. That is a figure that does need updating. So this would be a beautiful excuse for them to do that to a point. But yeah, then the figure itself, you know, I wouldn't even be mad if they didn't put any articulation in the legs and just had him in his seat and just a little hover base and then just had articulated hands. That'd be cool. But that's how I'd do it. It'd be a nice free pack. Have it in a nice like window display. Yeah.
Right, and we're talking Black Series for this one, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Superior!
Oh, yeah. Shit, that it's the Superior collectible. That's not really illustrated in this stream.
But no, great choices, man. I mean, this is what I really like about this particular discussion, is the fact that obviously when you talk concept art and you talk about stuff like this, you instantly, you know, your mind instantly goes to Ralph McQuarrie and all the designs for the original trilogy. So and they got really, really ambitious with some of the stuff for the prequels. They really, really did. So for me, I think some of the things I'd really like to see. I mean, there are things from the original trilogy that I still want to be brought to life. Like case in point, that TIE Fighter pilot bust that we talked about. If that was made into a figure, 6-inch or 3 3/4 inch, I'd be all over it. I'd absolutely love that. But a design that's always stood out to me from Ralph McQuarrie, and I do have some pretty cool designs to touch on as well. But something that's always struck me with Ralph McQuarrie is the samurai inspiration that he would draw on quite often. And this is a design from The Empire Strikes Back. I can't remember whether it's a Snowtrooper design or whether it's an early design for Boba Fett's helmet. But either way, bring this to life in action figure form. Now, Black Series would be great. 3 3/4 inch would obviously carry on that line of McQuarrie concept figures. Where I think this would really benefit from a plastic interpretation is in the Bandai Tamashii Nations line.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Because the samurai influence and the Far East art style that they draw upon is just absolutely fantastic. And when we talk about high-end collectibles, that's a line that I've really, really invested a lot of time and effort into. I absolutely love it. I think they're fantastic figures. The quality is amazing. As a talking point in your collection, they're just so out there. And unlike anything else that I think any other toy company's ever put out. So I think, like I said, as a Black Series or 3 3/4 inch Hasbro figure, great stuff. But you know, do that in the Tamashii Nations line and you're onto a winner, because that, I don't know what this looks like from the neck down. So maybe they'd have to take a little bit of artistic license with it. But I just love it. As a design, it's just so cool. It really, really strikes me. Every time I see it in a book, I'm like, yeah, that's one of my favorites. It's really, really cool. And then the second choice that I made was C-3PO, which was concept art for the Phantom Menace, obviously, before he receives all his plating and everything. And what really strikes me about this concept art of 3PO is the fact that it doesn't really look like 3PO. It's a little bit harder to imagine this underneath the gold plates.
Yeah.
I've always said that this particular art reminds me a little bit of Proxy from The Force Unleashed.
Yeah.
And so I would
Yeah.
be a little bit discontented if we got to this as a figure before we got Proxy. But I think as an action figure, and especially in the Black series, that's not, again, to disparage vintage collectors, but in the Black series where you've got that increase in detail, I think something like this, I mean, naked 3PO from the Phantom Menace would be sufficient. But this is just such a cool and interesting design. And like I say, it doesn't even have to be C-3PO. It could just be any droid from anywhere in the galaxy. It's just such a cool looking image.
I
feel like they've recently used this design too, part of the Star Wars Eclipse video game trailer that came out 12 months ago.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a droid in that video that looks, quite similar
Yeah,
to
there's
this.
something similar in there, definitely.
You could be right. Now you've said that, you could be right. I'll be honest, I've not really paid too much attention to that.
No, it sort of came and went.
Yeah, it's not really been touched on.
Like every Star Wars game recently.
Like they've brought out that trailer and then nothing's really been mentioned about it since.
I think because of the controversy behind that.
Elaborate, Dan, because I'm
Elaborate.
completely clueless.
Oh yeah, well I think after that trailer dropped, I think there was issues, like a lot of people had issues with the production company and things behind
okay.
them. So yeah.
Maybe kind of a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of hard to. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see.
It's kind of there. I think they've definitely drawn on it for inspiration. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
the influence is definitely there, isn't it?
Could be like, yeah.
If they use that, like if they actually made a figure of that, just fits in your shelf. It's fine. You can make up whatever you want it to be, and that's what I loved about the concept line for 30th anniversary when I was picking them up, because it's like, yeah, it's based on concept art, but it still fits with your figures. Just a different kind of, different vibe, just a bit of differentiation. It's great.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things I really like about him is the fact that it is almost like that what if scenario, and I really like you mentioned it. I think it was either an Instagram post or an Instagram story, Jesse. The Star Wars, the graphic novel that came out a couple of years ago, which is very much based on the Ralph McQuarrie art, and it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's based on early scripts for Star Wars.
Yeah, it was one of his first drafts. So I think it pulls from a few things, but it was because he did like 6 different drafts before before it turned out to what it was, and that was one of the early ones. That was I'm looking forward to actually sitting down and rereading that story, because it's been a few years now. It's probably 10 years since that came out. But yeah, that went through some very, very interesting changes over the years. So
I think that'd be something really cool to draw inspiration from in terms of an action figure line, because like you said, the concept art is definitely a heavy influence in the art for that graphic novel, but at the same time it also takes on a bit of a life of its own. So to introduce that into the line as well, I think would be really, really cool.
Yeah, because the character of Luke Skywalker in that comic book he's the older general, and he kind of resembles more of the McQuarrie Han Solo, which was turned into the action figure with the, sort of had the sort of purples and the maroons sort of color scheme with the lightsaber, had the beard. So a lot of it sort of had that sort of same feeling and vibe about it. It's not a lot of the McQuarrie artwork. So,
sorry, I just had to cough. Yeah, I mean, like you said, the McQuarrie concept art is always something that you go to when you talk about concept art. I think it's the first thing that reverberates in everybody's minds. But like I alluded to earlier, the concept art for the prequels got really ambitious. There's some really weird choices out there. But I did play it somewhat safe with a couple of other choices as well. Like, I'd love to see more concept troopers. That was one of the things I really, really liked about the 30th anniversary collection, is that they did the Snow Trooper, the Storm Trooper, you got the Rebel Fleet Trooper. I'd love to see concept clone troopers as well. And there were a ton of them. You know, there's an absolute. If you've got any of the reference guide books, you know, the art of books that were released around this time, then there's an absolute. You know, there's a gold mine of concept art for clone troopers that you could dive into. But these two in particular really stood out to me. The first one is rather similar to what we eventually got in Attack of the Clones, but the helmet is much more Mandalorian in its overall aesthetic. Which I really, really like. I think, you know, that really harks back to the idea of the clone troopers and the stormtroopers being sort of Mandalorian super troopers, which is a concept that we've seen, you know, reinterpreted throughout Star Wars. But I love that initial design. And then the one on the second one, I think this would have been a great contender for a Power of the Force figure, because there's something about that helmet that it really does remind me of the Space Trooper that was released in the Expanded Universe line back in '98, while at the same time still having that it still got a little bit of Macquarie to it, but it also brings with it, and I'm looking especially around the mouthpiece, it's got hints of the First Order.
Yeah.
It's very much like if you cover up the top part of its head, it's very much a First Order sort of snow trooper, flame trooper,
like a sleeker evolution of
and I'd love to see that as it's kind of a hybrid really of some of the prequel concept art. Definitely in the upper part of the helmet, it's got that Macquarie influence, but then like I said, it's interesting to pick out the little details that would eventually get put into some of the designs of the characters for the sequel trilogy as well. So yeah, I just love all these ideas of what could have been and what troopers could or should have looked like, and I think these two are really great examples of that. And like I said, if you've got any of those reference books, Doug Chang, Ian McCaig, they were putting out some amazing stuff. And there's, like I said, a gold mine of stuff that you could go to and pull figures out of. I think some of the Amidala concepts that Ian McCaig and Doug Chang were putting out were wild, man. Some of the outfits for Queen Amidala in episode 1, they were even more elaborate than what we eventually got in the film. Crazy stuff. But yeah, while we're touching on the prequels, we'll move into you, Jesse, and your choices. And a couple of these are quite relevant, bearing in mind what we've just seen in Ahsoka.
Oh yeah.
So just talk us through these.
Yeah, so the idea was with a villain was I can't remember the exact purposes of like the Night Witch. It was almost like from memory, it was kind of like the artist will basically said, you know, tap into your worst nightmare sort of thing, and you know, a lot of different designs sort of come out of that in order to come up with which would eventually become Darth Maul. But you know, the design there on the left is obviously what was later used for not necessarily Mother Talzin herself, but obviously the Night Sisters at large. But I don't know, I just really like that design. I think it's terrifying. There's something, you know, almost sort of tribal, and you know, I don't know what the word is for it. I'm trying to like think of the word. Sort of like old spirit, you know. I don't know. Yeah, I got no words for it. I just like it. I think it looks sick. But the fact that it's sort of, you know, it's come really into sort of fruition, and they're now seeing like the Night Mothers in Ahsoka, to sort of see this sort of elegant but sort of still old and ancient sort of look to this race of like witches is really, really cool. One thing I would have liked to have seen in the series in Ahsoka was having that sort of flowing sort of fabric, almost as if like the wings are sort of floating around behind the witches. And then maybe as Morgan Elsbeth sort of gets cast into the, you know, she gets the black eyes and all that sort of stuff, maybe her clothes start to have that sort of ripple effect as well. But that's a design that's really sort of stuck with me. I've had the Art of Episode 1 book since probably year 2000, and that's that's been a Bible of inspiration for me, like looking at all that artwork for so many years, and that one's just always jumped out at me. And the other one there on the right is, you know, the early idea of the Jedi Knights and Obi-Wan Kenobi, like a young Obi-Wan Kenobi, and a lot of the inspiration that went into that design was from Luke's outfit in Return of the Jedi. The Jedi were like more of a police force, I guess. They kind of, without being police, you know, they wore the black, sort of a more militaristic idea. At the same time, still very much a sort of a warrior monk sort of look to them. But I love that idea for the early ideas of, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi before Qui-Gon Jinn was sort of brought in.
It's interesting, isn't it? Just how much of an Asian and samurai and Far East sort of influence almost every concept artist has taken when it comes to Star Wars. I mean, especially with some of again, going back to some of those reference books that you talk about with like the Jedi and how they're presented and how they're put together. It's every concept artist over the years has always drawn on that influence. In some way, shape, or form. So it's really interesting that you get that throughout the generations in terms of the concepts and the designs that have been put forward. Talk us through your other two, because you did mention these illustrations as well. And this is another one. I think like the first one speaks for itself. I think we all know who that is. But then the second one that's a glup shitter if ever I saw one.
It's just something complete. You know, obviously Anakin, you know, it speaks for itself. You know, he's, you know, young slave boy. I really like that sort of a little bit more of a rough look to him. They sort of went for a little bit more, you know, young Luke Skywalker, I suppose, there, but you know, maybe a little bit more adventuristic. Obviously, his slave, you know, outfit ended up being quite a lot more simpler than that. But Watto, yeah. I don't know. He's got a couple of chicken wings there. You know, you feel like you could almost just lop the head off and put him on a barbecue or something like that, and just, yeah, I don't know. There's just something about that design for Watto. There's, you know, the smoking old car salesman, junkyard salesman. Like, he's got a cigar in his mouth. Apparently, he's got these little wings on top that are somehow holding that blob of it's just it's just one thing I love about Star Wars is the weird, the wonderful, the crazy, the just downright silly. It's and that's just jumped out at me as something that was just all of those things. And Watto, I love Watto. Like, I want a Black Series of him, like, big time.
Yeah, me too.
Like he's just, I don't know. He's like Gonzo with a meth addiction or something. Like,
I love the smell the character off screen.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say that. Yeah, you can smell the fish. You can smell the smoke. Yeah, it's all there.
Yeah. It's like a seafood market on a Sunday morning or something like that. It's just, yeah, coming in the idea of toys, like, I don't know, I think that'll translate pretty well into action figures, like the Obi-Wan that we spoke about before in the black outfit. Like, that there's like a regality to it, like it's almost Count Dooku-ish in the way he looks. Like, I think that would translate really well into an action figure, a 6-inch or 3 3/4. But you know, having all the fabric and, you know, the staff, you know, it just looks cool. Still waiting for a Black Series Jake Lloyd Anakin, which I think was pipelined, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
we'll see whether that happens, but
needs to happen.
If anyone's
we're going to save it for next year.
Yeah,
there's a small anniversary, right?
Yeah. But I
Hopefully,
mean, everyone that's 3D modeling for 3D printing, like every other character, like they've done Turgle and Scuba Stev from Jedi Survivor. Like,
yeah, Scuba Stev.
People are printing those out, and it's like, there's a Watto here. Please, someone do that for me. I haven't got the knowledge to do it, but I want one.
Yeah,
I almost like that concept of Anakin better than what we got for the film.
Yeah, I do. Just having him, it's almost like he's that little bit older in this image as well, and I like that idea of just having him being that little bit older.
Yeah,
Maybe if like around 11, 12 instead of 9.
a little less naive.
Yeah, just
Maybe
like
a
a
little bit cynical and jaded about the world he lives in.
He's seen some stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I think that'd have been a much more, I'll not say understandable, but that'd have been for me a better jumping off point in terms of that's when he gets picked up by the Jedi. That's when he begins his training, because he's already forged these thoughts and opinions. Like he was still very much like it's almost like he became
Still optimistic.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would have made a lot more sense to have had him as a much more, like you said, Jesse, a much more jaded and yeah, just affected individual, rather than this whimsical, still, seeing the positives in everything. I suppose at the same time that plays into the tragedy of his downfall, but yeah, it would have been cool to see how that would have played out as well.
Some early seeds of, yeah. It's working. It's working.
Wizard.
Are you an angel?
I love the idea of having these two, like picking these two together as well, because this would be a great 2-pack as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
they tie together so well. But yeah, I really like those.
Slave driver Watto.
Yeah.
Just touching on the previous concept art, though, the Jedi. If you invert the colours of that, it looks so much like Rey.
Yeah, you're right.
Rey. Do you know what I mean? Because it's even got the
with the
staff
star.
as well.
Yeah. Good point. What I really like about that artwork, the Jedi artwork, is that it's interesting, the concept art, because I forget whether that was a McCaig or a Chang design, but
I think that was McCaig from memory, but I could be wrong.
So if it was, it's interesting that Ian McCaig took that and saw Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi and thought that's traditional Jedi wear. That's what Jedi would have worn in their prime, at the height of their power. So let's incorporate that into the Jedi's design for the prequels. That's a really interesting thing for me, is that it wasn't always the Obi-Wan tunics and the robes that were the traditional Jedi garments. That's a really cool, again, what if sort of scenario.
And not something they could totally rule out going into the future, when they're talking about, whatever the episode 10 is going to be with Rey starting up a Jedi Order, and maybe there's some of that inspiration could filter into that sort of era of Star Wars and a Jedi that are, maybe a little bit more, little less nomadic, a little bit more, action orientated.
100%. Yeah. I mean, now that we've touched on that feeds really, really well into your picks, James.
Segway.
Yeah, there we go. Because you touched on the concept art that we got for Colin Trevorrow's Duel of the Fates. Now,
nice choices.
You either love that, if you've read anything about what the Rise of Skywalker could and should have been, you've either got feelings on it or you haven't. You either love it, you hate it, but there's no denying that some of the concept art that we eventually got from what Colin Trevorrow was working on would have been so damn cool. And this is one of the most, for me, I mean, James, you didn't really specify when we were talking about this, you didn't specify a particular character or anything that you wanted to get made into an action figure. So just talk us through this. What have you seen in that field of concept art that really made you think these would be cool toys?
I just like the general idea of getting figures of characters that that never appeared on screen in any particular style, because you're always going to get several different versions of your main characters throughout whatever different outfits that they had, but to have something that only exists in someone's imagination, I think gives a unique flair to it. And to have something physical and tangible just based on that's just my overall appeal to it. I like the particular design of Rey because I think it is very much what we should have got. It was natural progression from how The Last Jedi ended in terms of building a dual-bladed lightsaber. It made sense because of all the experience that she would have had fending off thugs with her staff. It just gives an overall greater progression to her character than what I think we got. She's very much. She's not a traditional Jedi. She's very much a ragtag sort of character. Like she's almost a straight mix between Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, and the way that her character was developed over the films we got, and what we assume her past on Jakku was. I just think it'd be a cool toy. I like cool lightsabers. I like cool outfits. I think that the Rise of Skywalker figure is almost a rinse and repeat of the Force Awakens design. I know that they had to do that for various reasons for production on the film, but this would just make a cooler toy, in my opinion. The whole point of it existing in someone else's imagination first, just then brings through so many different display options and playability factors when you've got a figure that doesn't necessarily exist in something yet.
Yeah,
that's up to you as the collector to make that up.
Yeah, I love that.
That's great.
I just think it's cool, man. There's a couple of different variations of it as well. There's one where it looks a lot similar to Luke's Return of the Jedi costume, and the lightsaber's almost got a longer hilt to it.
She also has that
white sort of flat,
yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think there's some really cool concept art from what would eventually become the Rise of Skywalker. I think one of the ones that really stands out to me is I should have prepared it for the stream actually, but I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. But there's an image of Finn leading the Stormtrooper uprising on Coruscant.
Yes,
and I mean, Finn looks very similar to how he would ultimately look in the film anyway. But there's characters within that crowd that he's leading. It's very Les Mis in its overall as a visual. You know, Finn's got the Resistance flag. He's leading the charge. It's it's such a cool image. And there's like I said, it's a Stormtrooper uprising, but all the Stormtroopers have got the helmets off, and they're all like, "Let's go!" And it's just such a striking image. Like I think figures I think there's so many interesting designs on, so many interesting ideas. Sorry, from what the Rise of Skywalker would ultimately become, that I think would play really, really well into future Star Wars media and ultimately future Star Wars toys. And I think images such as this really capture that. I'm not sure whether I'm not sure what Finn and Poe are wearing in that image, because it almost looks like Stormtrooper armor, but at the same time it doesn't.
Just thinking that, yeah.
It's like it's repainted.
It gives me Numa and Gobi vibes from their appearance in Rebels when they had pieces of the 212th armor.
Yeah.
I mean, not so much Poe, but Finn definitely in that image.
Yeah.
Really has vibes of Shea Vizsla for me.
Yeah.
Very very clunky and very Old Republic in its overall design.
It gives a unique feel to the sequel trilogy designs, whereas they really, I always see them whenever I'm thinking about them as they played everything too safe.
Yeah.
Just in case there was backlash on something, and ultimately
just went and tried to fix everything, but.
Yeah, I think this is just so out there and original. It's almost got sort of Blade Runner vibes mixed in with it a little bit.
Yeah, love that.
I like the story idea of like Finn having to put on Stormtrooper armor again, like to fight when he's so far removed from the First Order. Like, the idea of him having to go, I never thought I'd put this back on, and what that would bring out in Finn would be really cool to see.
Like I said, there's so many points from that original draft and that original script of what would ultimately become the Rise of Skywalker. I think for me, one of the things that really stood out, and we got an idea of it. I think a lot of the visuals that we got of it were conjecture, because I don't think we really got any like confirmed concept art. But Kylo Ren receives a new helmet in the film, or in what would ultimately become the film, and he stays a villain, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to see. That's how I know that, you know, there's a lot of Ben Solo stands out there, but for me it was especially after The Last Jedi, I was like, okay, let's avoid the redemption arc. Let's do things a little bit differently, and let's keep this guy who thinks he's doing all these things for the right reasons. Let's keep him as a villain. He doesn't need to be redeemed. He doesn't need to turn over a new leaf. Keep him as a villain. Let him live as a villain. Let him die as a villain. That's what I wanted to see, and that's what I think we'd have gotten from this.
Yeah, I agree.
This early concept, especially
as much as I like Ben Solo, it's very. I think it's morally unjustified for him to, you know, be redeemed and come back to the light at the end because of everything that he's actually done.
I mean, you could say the same thing for Anakin, though.
I was just going to say, but you've got that chosen one prophecy there to sort of reinforce those story beats, whereas Kylo Ren is just a dick. Like,
I know Anakin killed all the kids, but he's the chosen one.
Well, yeah.
I always said that
after episode 5 of Ahsoka,
with the judicial system, so it's kind of like where your heart is at the end. Like that's the most important thing at the present. So I don't know. I was all for Ben Solo coming back and
a couple of thousand kids. What's that in a day's work?
Yeah.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder? Yeah, the untapped potential of that movie. Like you said, I think for me, like I said, I know there's some people out there that probably think that what they read of Colin Trevorrow's original plan for the film was cack. There are things in there. I mean, we've touched on these in previous streams. I mean, there's things in there that I think all sounds a little bit fan fiction-y. Yeah. But for the most part, I think it's a much better rounding off of the trilogy than what we ultimately got with The Rise of Skywalker. The Rise of Skywalker really felt like they were just going back to the well and pulling everything from sort of the preemptive stages of the sequels. Like, it was almost like they went back to what they were talking about before The Force Awakens was finalized, and they just recycled some of the ideas that they had for the start of it. Like you said, James, they played it very, very safe. Very, very safe. I think Duel of the Fates would have just been a much better way to round off the trilogy, and it was a lot more brave in its direction. Like you said, very, very out there. Blade Runner
would have been
vibe.
a better lead into 10, 11, 12. So I think Last Jedi was on its way to doing was, you know, setting up a pathway to go further than just 9.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's looking at it now and thinking about what you've just said there. It really baffles me that they marketed this as like the end of the Skywalker saga, and they didn't just say, right, it's sort of like we're starting the next saga of movies with these 3, considering we're now getting a continuation anyway.
Yeah.
It's the typical Kennedy effect, where it's like all these ideas just get put into a blender, and whatever comes out, we have to drink.
Yeah. You're not wrong. Not wrong. Leathery Man has popped up in the chat. How are you doing, mate? He says, design is such a key element in Star Wars. Ben Solo ending up in a bland black onesie in Rise of Skywalker was weak sauce. Many of the Final Order officers were pretty much junk also. It's like you said, they just played it too safe. They didn't take enough chances. They didn't take enough risks. And they just,
Something I always wanted.
Like, I've got to go to Exegol, but let me just stop off and get some new clothes on my way.
Something I always wanted when cause I got spoiled that Ben would like turn good again, if you will, at the end of the film, because there was a massive script leak a few months before, and some dickhead on Facebook thought it'd be funny to share a picture. So the scene where he's next to Rey and they've both got blue lightsabers is what I saw. And for weeks before the film, I was thinking, knowing what we know about lightsaber crystals and what was brought into canon about them actually being bled, through anger and all this, if he actually made that moral decision to walk away from the dark side. I wanted to see a scene where his lightsaber is activated and it becomes steady instead of whatever they were calling it, and then it turns back to blue to represent like the moral choice that the character's making and his connection through the Force being healed instead of some. I don't know.
Almost like a continuation of what happened with the lighting in Force Awakens when he's in blue before he kills it turns to red. Like more of a literal interpretation of that with the sabers would be.
It's all well and good seeing Jedi bleed the crystals red or orange, but there's nothing to say that we can't see the other side of that, or that it can't be done.
Scene was passing the wrong lightsaber. I think Rey should have passed Ben his mother's lightsaber as opposed to Luke's, and she should have kept Luke's.
Yeah.
Being that she's the one that carried it, she's the one that's fixed it, she's done all this work with it. She's like, oh, you can have this one. I've got the cool new one that Luke just gave me. It's Leia's. Whereas I think the idea that his mother just sacrificed herself to bring Ben back, for him to take up his mother's weapon, would have been far more symbolic. A choice than what we got.
I think it's.
Oh, sorry.
That's something I thought of like within 3 minutes on the toilet one day, and it was just like, how are storytellers like not coming up with stuff that's so blatantly like just symbolically it's there? Just do it.
I was just about to say that I'd completely like erased that from my mind. To be honest, I'd completely forgotten that it was Luke's that she ultimately passes. But it's like you said, if you can think of that in 3 minutes, like it for me, it's just the more I think about it, the more I'm just so disappointed that the sequel trilogy isn't being made now, because now that they've had time to let everything cook and let everything simmer, and what the sequel trilogy could have been had it been made today, it would have been a much better rounded story. I'm not bashing the sequels. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Rise of Skywalker, but I love The Force Awakens and I absolutely adore The Last Jedi.
Agree.
And I wouldn't want to do the whole red pill, blue pill situation, because I wouldn't want those two films to disappear. But at the same time, to see what that story could have been had it been made by the storytellers we've got working on Star Wars now, I just don't think, in hindsight, J.J. Abrams was the right choice.
Yeah,
I don't think it was the right choice to begin with, but
I love the sequels myself, but it's just, I just feel like there's a lot more work to do what the Clone Wars did for the prequels, that what needs to be done for the sequels to sort of build that painting up and fill in those blocks to make it a little bit more of a richer story long term. They'll get there. Like it took Clone Wars a long time to help the prequels, and not that they needed help, but in some eyes, it does. But
I think they were too small picture to begin with, to be fair. So they didn't they just made this big investment, and they were like
they were trying to make a return on it, weren't they? That was all it was.
It's like, let's make a film, rather than stepping back and thinking, right, let's see who are the people who've worked on it during this interim of us buying it, and actually develop these people and do what they've done now with like Dave, like nurturing them and building them up, understand the universe, understand the fandom as well, I suppose, rather than just listening to the fandom. And everyone was like, oh, get J.J. Abrams. I was like, visually, there's visual stuff there that works in Star Wars, but in terms of his storytelling, some of his films are all right, but he's just very ambiguous. And when he was saying the stuff about the mystery box, it's like, oh, can we not? Star Wars does have mystery, but it's not the whole thing that makes it. You need a story there, and then it's the little things within that give us a sense to character. And he just didn't. He didn't.
Yeah,
it's a real shame that nobody really hears anything about Rick McCallum these days. But he sort of quietly retired from Lucasfilm when Disney bought it. If anybody was in their right mind, they would have said, "Oh, please don't retire. We've got a spot for you. You know how the production's been working for the last 10 years. Please come over and show us you know, he's almost like he's the Dave Filoni of the production side. Of the everyday and the clockwork stuff, how it all gels together behind the scenes, and they're just like, see you later. You go live somewhere nice.
He was arguably a big yes man for Lucas, though, throughout the making of the prequel.
There is that, yeah.
A lot of the stuff that George probably shouldn't have done. Like he like episode 2 is definitely a reaction to episode 1. Like, I don't know, it's happened with all 3 eras of Star Wars. There's been those sort of not issues, but there's been the sequels have been a reaction to the film before it, and like cutting out Jar Jar so much out of episode 2 was a reaction to episode 1. And
but that's where I feel like the sequels in that sense. I mean, you make a really good point. Like the Rise of Skywalker, in a roundabout sense, in terms of the reaction to the audience, the Rise of Skywalker is a reaction to the Last Jedi.
Exactly.
I didn't want to believe it at first, but the more you go back and watch it, the more you think, they made these decisions because of the response. I know, obviously, there was the whole issue of Carrie Fisher passing away as well, which played a detrimental role to the production of the film, I think.
It's all just simple things like Kylo Ren, smashed his helmet and became his own thing in Last Jedi.
Yeah, but then went back to it.
Rise of Skywalker, they fixed his helmet.
Yeah,
you broke my toy.
Rise of Skywalker, the lightsaber's fixed, and it's all these things that just.
I think that's what it is like with the Rise of Skywalker. It's like that. Yes, behind the scenes and to an audience, it's a reaction to the Last Jedi. But in terms of the storytelling and the progression of the overall story, it's a reaction to The Force Awakens. For me, The Rise of Skywalker is a much better sequel to The Force Awakens than it is to The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
If they switch the order, and obviously parts would need tweaking to then lead into the next film, but if they switch the order, The Last Jedi works a lot better as an ending for me than Rise of Skywalker does.
Yeah.
When these films were coming out, I don't even think it was a case of them listening too much to the fans, because they were listening to the internet idiots. Because there's a common difference to be had between Star Wars fans like us and the people that will literally litter a Facebook comment section, regardless of what it is, with Disney, you suck, you're ruining Star Wars. And those are the people they listen to far too much about The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi is the only sequel it's the only Disney era film that George Lucas passed a proper comment on. If you watch any of the other interviews with him or any statements he gave at red carpets about the other stuff, he tends to give a very political response about how he thinks it'll be a good film for the fans and that they've done a good job with it. He never gives his own opinion, and he specifically said about The Last Jedi that he thought it was very in vain of the experimental storytelling that he sort of specializes in, and that ultimately interests him as a filmmaker. And he said he was surprised by it, and I'm sorry, but George Lucas has got a little bit more to say about Star Wars than idiots that want to sit in the basement scratching their nuts over this sort of stuff.
Worst episode ever.
And they still haven't gone away now. You could probably go on to the latest thing that they posted about Ahsoka on the Facebook page, and you'll find somebody saying, Disney era Star Wars shite, you're ruining it. Get rid of Kathleen Kennedy. I had an argument with somebody months ago because they were saying about, it's rubbish, this Ahsoka series is. Kathleen Kennedy's ruined it. I'm like, do you really understand that little about a production process on a series where you think that these executive producers have actually got more of a creative influence over the scripts and the storytelling than the people that frigging create it?
Yeah.
Oh, it is, though. It is. Kathleen Kennedy knows it all. She's the executive producer. It's like, it's just like Marvel. It's all going down the drain. It's like, you just look at all the money it's making. Just because you didn't bloody like it doesn't mean it's not successful. Doesn't mean other people don't like it. You've just got a bigger gob than half of us.
That's similar to my argument with people. They're like, Dave Filoni needs to take over from Kathleen Kennedy. And it's like,
that's not how this works.
Dave Filoni sitting in an office punching numbers, or do you want
Precisely.
him to stories doing what he's doing? Yeah. Like Dave Filoni, he's not a producer. Like he's not sitting.
That's
in there
not how the Force works.
Yeah, it's like you want him sitting there writing stories and directing stories and getting the best shit out there as possible. Like he is exactly where you want him. You don't want.
There's an argument where people say, "Oh, why couldn't we get the sequel trilogy and let Dave do it? Why couldn't we have got that at the time?" It's like, well, Dave wasn't ready. You look at the journey that he's been on. He'd never directed live action. He's where he needs to be right now.
Yeah.
If we'd have got him involved in this, which might have been good, but it wouldn't have been right by any means.
Disney weren't ready to acknowledge that there's a whole generation of kids, 4 of us sitting right here, that grew up with prequels and Clone Wars, and and now able to think for ourselves in our 20s and 30s.
Nearly 10 years later, they watch Ahsoka. You want a movie, Dave? You want a movie? We give you a movie.
Yeah. There's a whole generation of people that are having kids of their own and want to share their upbringings. Like, there's your future. It's not grumpy old 50-year-olds that are. Some of them are. It's a small minority. I'm not.
I used to have a teacher at school that was an original trilogy purist, and I was the kid that used to sit in the library, and they used to get those Tartakovsky Clone Wars sort of little comic books, the A5 sort of books, and I'd be sat there reading them, and he's like, "Oh, just Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, not this Clone Wars rubbish." And I thought, you keep telling yourself that, because in 10 years I'll be able to tell you that you're wrong.
Teacher, the student becomes the teacher.
That's it.
But yeah, in conclusion, these would make great toys.
Yes.
We do have one more. We do have one more piece of concept art to touch on, James, that you chose.
Yes, far less tangible one at that.
Yeah, talk us through this, mate. What's your thought process behind this one?
I just like it. It's just cool. I think it's really great that somebody went, "Oh, you know what? I really like the body of Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi. Let's put Plo Koon's head on it." And I think, is it this one? It is that on this one, he's got Luke's lightsaber from Empire Strikes Back. And I just like what storytelling that possibly could bring to the table, considering, it was another question for another time.
As long as Dave's in the chair, Plo Koon is on the table, my friend.
That's the one. Yeah.
He had an ejector seat. He had an ejector seat.
You do realise, though, that by choosing this as your pick for a future action figure, James, that this is literally just going to be Force Awakens Luke with Plo Koon's head. You're aware?
I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take it. Land Speeder Luke did a cool custom. There's a different version of this where he's in all black robes, and that's in one of the Mandalorian concept art books. Yeah. So he just took a Plo Koon, painted it black, took the belt from the Luke Skywalker, glued it on, gave him a cloak, lightsaber on the belt. It looked mint. I was going to do it myself until I realised how much Plo Koon goes for on the aftermarket now. He's an expensive boy, but I just like the idea. If this is what we'd have got at the end of The Mandalorian, I don't think I'd have been happy, because this screams of fan service to a point, specifically Dave's fan service. He's almost fan servicing himself, but you can't help but acknowledge the idea of, oh, well, we'll just tell everybody it's Plo Koon, because if it leaks, everyone will believe it because they know who I am.
I love that. It's so good.
It's just a cool version. It's got a story to it, and it's like you were saying, Steve, with those Bandai sort of samurai type figures. They tell a story for people that might look at your collection and not necessarily know what they are. It's for somebody that knows Star Wars just on an average viewer level. They're looking at your shelf and they're like, well, I know that Plo Koon wasn't in The Mandalorian. Tell me about that. And it's just got a fun story attached to it.
I can get behind that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, good chat, fellas. I like it. It's just
the stark contrast between that one and the first.
I know, right? We'll cover that one in 3 minutes. We'll just go on a massive sequel debate for 10. Bugger it. But no, some really good points made, to be fair. Matt Martin's just popped up. I have 6 kids from 23 to 1 years old, and they all love the movies for different things. At the moment, they're losing interest as the toys aren't flowing from the new media. I completely agree with that, and I think that's one of the things that we're only just starting to see again now with some of the recent Black Series figures, and it's something that we've touched on numerous times. Like now, it seems crazy to me that we're getting figures such as Hu Yang, Hera, Sabine from Ahsoka, but we're still waiting on figures from The Mandalorian Season 1 that came out 3 years ago. We're still waiting on figures from, other parts of Star Wars media that, that came out months to years ago.
Crate
Well,
Luke, where's my boy?
There's no
Frog
kid
Lady
resonating with the Rise of Skywalker because they put out 3 figures.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, it really baffled me the last time we got together on a stream and we talked about how the Jedi training Luke and Leia from the Rise of Skywalker were cancelled, and again tying into what we've just been talking about due to negative fan reaction. You're printing money. Just there's there are going to be people out there that are going to want to buy those figures regardless of what media they're from. And like we touched on in the last stream we did. I'm not a massive fan of the Rise of Skywalker, but I love the design of those figures, those characters rather. So I'm going to buy. I'd love to buy the figure.
Leia with lightsabers, like that's.
Come on.
Yeah. Say what you want about the films, but there's no denying that the era that those films came out, it was just a fantastic time for toys.
Yeah.
Like the fondest memories of the sequel trilogy that I've got are all these Force Friday events that they did.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yes.
So good.
So fun, so good.
I remember.
Rogue Fridays, Dan.
Rogue Fridays.
Oh.
Did you know there's a new Star Wars film coming out? Yes, that's why I'm here, child. I'm here for the prawn.
I loved it. I used to love it, but yeah, that's what it was all about. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I just can't fully, double down on the sequel trilogy, is just because the memories that were attached to it. And you've touched on this a few times as well, Jesse. Is that the toys allow you to enjoy a movie even more, and I never really thought of it like that until you mentioned it, but it's so true. If you've got
think about us with the power of the Force, like as kids, when you're not watching a movie, you're in the sandpit or in the garden, you're playing with the power of the Force figures, and you're making up stories, and you're getting to know the characters through your imagination. So when you go and watch the movies again 10 years later, or 10 minutes later, whatever,
yeah,
you've got more of an attachment to these characters, and
exactly.
Even as us being collectors now, we buy them, we talk about them on a action figure review for YouTube, but still taking a bit of time to sit there and look at the thing and appreciate the character. And, you're setting up on a shelf in amongst all the other characters. And I don't know, it ties you closer to those characters when you've got a physical thing in your hand that you can look at. Like a couple of weeks ago, got the new Ezra Bridger, the season 3-4 version from Rebels. And, I was just had it sitting out watching TV, and I'm, posing and playing around with it. And now I want to watch season 3 or 4 of Rebels again. Like, and I'm just like, I want to, I just want to watch more Ezra now. And it's like, this is great. And then by then Ezra had come up on the show on Ahsoka, and I was like, just having the figure of Ezra, like this is really cool. And I felt like I had a bit more of an attachment to the character through the toys. Yeah. And I don't think they've worked that out. But Matt here is saying, 6 kids, all varying ages, don't have that attachment to the characters because the toys aren't there for them to have that attachment to.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's super important.
Give Matt and his kids his figgies.
Yeah,
Hasbro.
And us.
And us. And me, yeah. That's just an excuse for us to get it as well. Just
not only that, like Lucasfilm marketing needs to understand that importance as well of having that connection when we're in such a distracted society now with phones, and kids are on iPads and they're just playing Fortnite and Minecraft, and it's just you need something that physical to attach them to the characters. Otherwise they'll quickly go to the next thing. They'll quickly go, oh, I'm bored, I'm going to go play Fortnite for 6 hours and sit on my iPad and play games. It's like, Mummy, give me your phone. So you don't need it. Hey, have some toys, go play in the garden, use your imagination. Market it that way, and you'll find yourself winning winning another generation of kids over.
Yeah. I mean, not to rely on nostalgia or anything like that, but that's one of the things I really like about. I don't know if you guys have seen it, James or Dan, but being in the UK, the Smiths the Smiths advert on TV, it's so 90s influenced.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. I wish if I'd known we were going to talk about it, I would have got it to play on
I
screen.
was going to say, I can't say that I've seen it. I very rarely watch normal people television, as I call it.
So the soundtrack to it is C'est La Vie by Bewitched, and the toys that they're showing in the advert are all like, it's Furby, it's not Scrabble, Spirograph, action figures, Spider-Man, all that sort of stuff, and it's just so like deeply rooted in the 90s, and it's like, yeah, this is how you market toys, like make them look fun again, make them fun again. And it's something that we've said numerous times before, like, going back to the Power of the Force stuff. As a collector, as I started to get a little bit older, I started to really resent all the gimmicks and the missile firing features and all that sort of stuff. But it's something that I think is missing from Star Wars toys now. It's something that, they're not toys anymore. And the toys that they do make for Star Wars get absolutely panned because they
only last like a year or two, and that's it. They're on to the next gimmicky crap.
That's the
they
problem.
almost dumb it all down, don't they? You've got this mission fleet crap, and I mean, when I was a kid, if I cared about how closely represented the source material was in terms of how a figure looked, then kids are still going to give a shit about that.
Yeah,
Obi-Wan or Luke Skywalker, they don't look like a slightly evolved Funko Pop with a great big ship that they can just sit in. You can only get one figure in. Don't want that, man. I'm still 5 up here, so I could tell you I don't want to be playing with that shit.
That's it.
As males, we peak emotionally at the age of 12, I think, and then our bodies just get crusty after that.
Absolutely. That's where my mind's still stuck anyway.
It's like fart jokes. I'll be 36 in 2 weeks, and I'm still carrying on like a 16-year-old.
Well, it speaks volumes, doesn't it, when we're talking about throne earlier, and we're like, oh yeah, toilet. Good God. But yeah, just bring the fun back to toys, man. Let's just have some fun with it again. Let's just not not everything needs to be serious and critical, and let's just have some fun. That's what we're here for. Let's have some fun. Speaking of fun, we'll start to wind things down a little bit now so that we can get a start to our day. And Jesse, you can go and get some shut eye. But obviously, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the latest piece of Star Wars media. And since we've just been touching on concept art, we recently got some concept art revealed from Ahsoka, and that leads us really, really well, I think, into our next talking point. I mean, I want to get your guys' thoughts on the series. We've touched on.
Are you sure, Steve? You're asking a question.
I'm asking the question. I
bloody loved it, man.
I want to go around.
I've got my hat.
There we go.
Yes. Yes.
That is magical.
Oh no! Don't do that. Who's that handsome fella there?
Let's have a look at the back. Come on, spin it. Do a twirl.
Got me nice new shirt on as well, boys.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
Representing the brand.
Okay, you can put it back to the other screen now.
Leaving it lingering.
Yeah. We'll just leave you. We'll just all remove ourselves from the studio, and you can just lead the chat now, James. That's fine.
Okay, now if you leave me here talking about Ahsoka by myself, I'll still be here at 10 o'clock tonight.
But yeah, we got some concept art revealed from Ahsoka, that I just felt, again, segue. That image, I think, when we're talking about being brave and we're talking about new media, and we're talking about taking risks, this image just encapsulates the series for me.
Likewise.
It's poignant. It reverberates. It literally it reverberates throughout like, all aspects of Star Wars for me. Like it just literally touches on everything that the series did right. I just can't. I'm struggling to put into words really how much I enjoyed this series, because I think it might be a big statement, a bold statement, but for me, it's one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars media that's been put out post Disney buyout. Rogue One and Last Jedi aside, this is by far my third favorite piece of media. And it's creeping up there. The more I go back and look through it, I think, like I said, the amount of risks that were taken, the things that it ties back to, the characters, the fan service that we got that didn't feel like fan service, everything just fit in so well.
It's got it all.
It literally has. I forget which stream it was that we talked about it on. It might have been the watch along. It might have been the Hasbro Pulse one, but there is literally something in there for everyone. If you're a Rebels fan, there's something there. If you're an original trilogy fan, there's something there. If you're a Clone Wars fan, Mandalorian fan, sequel fan, everything's just, EU fan, Legends, everything.
I struggle to find a flaw with it.
Yeah.
It's stupendously good.
My only gripe with it is that it was too frigging short, and that there wasn't enough of it. That was my only gripe. Like I've literally, like, I think that the writing has been some of the best that we've seen in Star Wars overall, and that's taking into consideration original trilogy. I'm not saying that it's better than the original trilogy. Don't come at me. Don't swamp my DMs. But I'm just saying, like, in terms of the actual, like, there's a reason why the writers are on strike at the minute, because they are not getting paid enough to be coming up with the stuff they came up with in that series. That was chef's kiss. Like, my God, like, I read every character and every scenario in that show resonated with me, and I can't begin to stress just how fucking cool it was. So
no, I'm very much ready for a rewatch. Just back to back through one sitting, just to soak it all in again. Like I watched each episode multiple times throughout the weeks, and even sat and watched you guys do your live watch through with the episode 5, I think.
I'm sorry we put you through that. Yes, it was
good, man. Like, it was really good. Like, I just being able to watch you guys sort of soaking that in as it was hitting you, like, it made me feel it again. Like,
because
I was sitting there watching it with my mouth, just my jaw was on the floor, and I'm like, they're freaking doing it. Like, they've done it. Like,
I mean, that was the thing.
They just gave us that shit. Like, I still struggle on a daily basis to put my thoughts into words in regards to what they've done with this series. One point I've made multiple times is, I'm also a big Lord of the Rings fan, big fan of Tolkien, and there's, undeniably, if you know Lord of the Rings stories, Dave's influence in this is huge. And just some of the themes throughout the series is just, they're all things that I love from Star Wars, from storytelling in general. So when there's you come across a universe that shows that there's a history to the worlds, like the statues of the Mortis gods, the temples of the witches, all that kind of stuff, that sort of puts me right back into Middle Earth with the Argonath, with the Fellowship sailing down the river on the boats, and they see the two kings, the statues of the kings there, as they welcome them to Gondor, like that shit. To bring that into Star Wars, that just punched me right in the feels. And outside of Star Wars, my favorite film moment in cinema, period, is the end of the Two Towers where Gandalf rocks up with Aemir and the Rohirrim and they ride down the hill to meet the king.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
That just, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
The score,
And
everything, perfect.
yeah, just incredible. So that the moment when they take off with the Purgil at the end of 6,
Mhm.
the end of 6, that was as close as Star Wars has ever gotten to that feeling in Lord of the Rings for me. There was tension, there was build up, there was, you know, Ahsoka flying the ship into the mouth and Hera sort of saying, you know, may the force be with you. Had all that, like all the build up with Jason, all that sort of just, and then just for them to punch into hyperspace in the Purgil was just, that just blew me away. And I haven't felt that way with Star Wars for a long time.
I think it's the best live action Star Wars since the Disney buyout. I'll say it. Like, I love everything that's come out, you know, and different levels. But nothing has just like warmed my heart the way that this show did.
Yeah.
It's
there's
just
been moments that have, like, you know, they've taken my breath away. They've made me excited. They've made me, you know, tear up. But that just, I don't know, something that just felt good. It just felt good.
Me and you, Steve, have mentioned that Andor was the fillet steak, right? And it is. It still holds up as one of my favourite shows. But Ahsoka, in terms of having a multifaceted level, like we've mentioned, where it's like it appeals to everyone.
This was the surf and turf.
That's like, oh, you've just overstuffed me, and I love that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's the second helping of the dessert bar.
Yeah.
Ahsoka was the surf and turf, and Balin's skull was the
chocolate cake.
Balin's skull was the on-shell prawns that you're constantly having to peel, and get and look inside and get deeper.
Oh, don't. That means somebody came over at the end of the meal and took it away and said, "You can't eat any more of that now."
No, but you don't want to. You don't want to eat.
They
You don't want to eat
did,
the shell. You don't want to eat the shell.
Did. The waiter came across and they said, "Oh, you're done now. You got to wait until the next season."
Oh man!
What's Thrawn doing on Dathomir? What is he doing? You've left me on the biggest cliffhanger again.
I just rewatched the Mortis trilogy last night because, once again, surprise, James is rewatching the Clone Wars for like the third time this year, and that's where I got up to, and I was like, oh, I'm going to pay particular attention this time because of what we've just got. And I still don't fucking know what we're gonna get, but and it's great.
Yeah. That's it. It's the unpredictability of it all, isn't it?
That's just, yeah. You can see Dave's had this shit in his brain for just decades.
Oh yeah,
15 years. Just cogs have been turning. It's the symbolic things like you see in Rebels with the like the door to the world between worlds with the wolves, and some of that symbology comes elsewhere, and it's all over the place. And like you said, on Mortis, when they're in the sort of big arena and you've got the sort of symbolic gateways, and it's all that sort of ancient language in Star Wars universe that we have now that sort of leaks into Jedi Fallen Order and some of the hieroglyphs and
man, all those Zephyr references were just insane.
Yeah, and that shit was there, and with you go through Jedi Fallen Order and it's the link with the Zepho and the Night Sisters and the Dathomir, and it's all there. It's all linking this stuff together. It's awesome. I love it.
But that's what I think that this era of live action Star Wars is doing really well, is linking everything together. Like I've always said, like maybe perhaps more sort of early phase Marvel, but Marvel always did a really, really good job of making sure that everything linked. And even if it was something that you forgot about, I think I was catching a stream. I think it was one that me and you did, Jesse, a while back over on your channel, where we made that comparison between Marvel and Star Wars, and we said how Marvel will mention something in a fleeting thought in one of their movies that it'll be something that's going on in the background and you'll miss it. I think it was the book in Doctor Strange that we were talking about, where it's missing from a shelf in Doctor Strange, and then WandaVision comes around and the book that's in WandaVision is the one that's missing from the shelf. Little things like that you forget about earlier on that then becomes linked back in a future project. And I think that for me with Star Wars is something that they've never really done. They've always just thrown content out and then had to go back and fill in those gaps afterwards, be it with media, with with TV media, with comic books, with games, whatever. They've always had to fill gaps in to complete a story. Whereas now I feel we're getting that. We're getting that, the things are being thought about more. Something that was missing from the sequel trilogy, for example, it's stuff that's getting thought about. It's getting placed. It's like, okay, I've come up with this idea. Let's put that aside for now. We'll come back to it later, but we'll still make it all tie. It'll. Yeah, I know what I'm trying to say, but I do a terrible job of putting it across. But
little things are starting to trickle in, especially trying to link up with the originals and the sequels. Like we're seeing Book of Boba Fett, you're seeing Luke starting to build his Jedi temple on Ossus. I think it's Ossus. And he's got these androids building this hut out of rocks, and that hut resembles the little Jedi huts on Arc 2 from Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So that's those little things, like you could kind of go, well, Luke's already visited there. He's been to that original Jedi temple.
Exactly.
Or he's studied Jedi history, and now he's building those huts in that image. So it's just little things like that are just, okay, I can kind of see what's going on here, and just little threads that are just interweaving.
That's it. I think for me, one of the big things as well that really sort of hammered that home was during this scene, and it was where Ahsoka steps out and Anakin approaches from behind and says, "I don't recognize this battle." If that was I just feel like if that was any other, if anybody else was overseeing the production of this show, Anakin would have just struck up a conversation with Ahsoka in that scene, and there'd have been no acknowledgement of the whole fact that Anakin missed the Siege of Mandalore and stuff like that. It's just little it's blatant and it's obvious to us who obsess over these little details, but to see that and to feel that is.
I have something that ties into that, Steve, and it's to anybody else that's watching this, it's just any old battle, like the very early flashback that you see, any old battle. And like you say, when we understand these details, but our age group that sort of lived through the Clone Wars, we're sitting there going, well, this must take place here, and this is a snippet from this point.
Yeah.
And something I wanted to talk to you guys about specifically is, like, where do you think that those like when she says to Anakin, "Oh, this is one of our first missions." Where do you think that is? Because a lot of people seem to be, in my opinion, like misconceiving where that scene is from. It takes some thought, and I've got to tell me what you think, and then I'll blurt my brain out.
So my thought immediately was Ryloth, because there are Twi'leks, present there, like, and they come across as like, maybe part of Cham Syndulla's, his resistance sort of crew. Like, just the presence of Twi'leks there sort of just goes, okay, this is probably Ryloth.
That's what I thought.
A bit of a deserty, dirty, sandy planet where it's dust is getting picked up everywhere. That was my thought, and I'm happy to roll with that.
The part where Anakin comes running out from the mist and from the dust and the mist, and he's like deflecting all the saber bolt, the blaster bolts and stuff. And like you said, when Ahsoka mentions that this is one of their first missions, like I was like scraping back to the beginning, and I was like, one of their first missions. I was like, it's got to be Teth.
See, that's what I was thinking.
But I agree with Jesse. Like my first impression was Twi'leks Ryloth, but
this is where you'll see how possibly pathetically long I have thought about this. Okay.
Nothing pathetic about it. Nothing pathetic about it.
So I thought Teth as well, because it's almost got a purple hue to the environment.
Yeah.
But the bolts that are being deflected are coming at them straight on. And on Teth, the battle was from the monastery above. So all the shots in the Clone Wars movie are coming down from an angle. So I sort of ruled that out. to a point. I think it's the same battle, and it takes place on Ryloth, and the starting of the scene is during the night time. So you've got the purple is basically nighttime, and the rest of the illumination comes from the battle around the planet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the scene where Ahsoka's got her hand on the clone troopers and she's sort of mourning the loss of all of the soldiers is the next morning, because you can actually see the sun in that shot, and it's pretty low. It's only just started to rise. Now, Ryloth is absolutely, correct, because you've got, as you said, Jesse, you've got Cham's freedom fighters there, quite obviously. But everybody seems to assume that it's from the actual 3-part Ryloth story at the end of season 1. And the fucking title's gone out of my head.
Storm over Ryloth and all
Storm
that.
over Ryloth, yes. But for Ahsoka to be talking about, or for Anakin to be teaching her about the reality of war and loss, it doesn't make sense for it to take place in that story where you see that Anakin and Ahsoka are commanding the space battle, and she has that lesson of, this is your first time commanding a squad and you've just lost them all. So for me, that has to take place later than this flashback scene. So in my sort of, I won't say headcanon, because my theory is that we know that Ryloth, in Storm over Ryloth, that's the Republic retaking the planet for a second time. So the episode supply lines where you've got Captain Keeley and General Dai, that is when the Republic would lose the planet to begin with. And the fact that the Republic don't reinforce Cham is why he's so pissed off when Mace Windu tries to get him to help. So I think that this is the start of whatever that Clone Wars episode concludes. Because Ahsoka is obviously much younger and she's just learning these lessons. So at some point in this battle, I like to think that the Republic is basically forced to retreat. General Dai and his forces are gone. It's just down to Cham and his freedom fighters, and everybody else is pulling off world. And then that just then affects Cham's side of the story when you get to Storm over Ryloth and those episodes. I think it just it ripens the fruit, if you will. And I've definitely thought about this far too much, guys, but
not at all.
But nobody else understands this. You guys are the only people that would understand this, and it would take far too fucking long to put into an Instagram message without, So there you go. That's my piece. I'm a very happy boy because I don't know. I'm happy that everybody else is struggling to say anything other than I fucking loved it. It's almost like there's so much emotional connection there that it's like all these fucking chemicals are just like cutting off supply to any intelligent part of the brain to actually get a sentence out about it. And I think the lack of ability to talk about it constructively speaks for how good it is. Because if you want to talk about something constructively, then there's definitely pros and cons. So take from that what you will.
That's a really, really good point, man. That's a really, really good point. I never thought of it like that. I was just like, oh, maybe I'm not creative enough to describe what I've seen. But yeah, no, I'll take that. I'm just overcome with emotion. That's why I can't formulate a sentence.
Yeah.
From this, though, I'd like to pitch a Disney Plus limited series or a film, Clone Wars film, set in early days of Clone Wars. Just bring back Hayden. Young Hayden and the young girl that played Ahsoka. Awesome. Do a standalone story in the middle of the Clone Wars. Cast an Asajj Ventress for live action.
Yes.
There you go. More toys, more Ventress shit. Like just do it. Just make it happen.
That could be it, man. That's the story, because for the longest time I was happy with this just being it.
But we don't. A young Anakin having that duel with Asajj Ventress on Yavin. Getting the scar, and have that as a pivotal moment of the Clone Wars. The movies are always about pivotal moments in Anakin's life. Throw that chapter in there. That's another pivotal moment of Anakin's life where he gets tempted by the dark side. He lashes out in anger. Obviously he can't he can't kill Ventress in that sense because she's got to continue on. But
I guess there's nothing to say that she dies from that fall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But to see that duel on Yavin in live action with Anakin.
I would.
Ventress standing in the rain, the rain.
I would die. That is one of my I'll not just say in the not in Star Wars, but out of the entire Clone Wars run from 2003 to present day, that is one of my favorite scenes. Like the fact that there's no music, like you said, the rain and the ambience of all that, and then you've got the mystery of the troopers getting pulled to the side, thrown up trees, like.
But then on the other side, you have Ahsoka, who's just witnessing her mentor completely just run off solely on emotion, like he's driven by anger, and her having to deal with that as a young Padawan, going like, why is he so impulsive? What's driving him to be impulsive, to run off like that and face Ventress, and have her maybe turning to Plo Koon or Obi-Wan Kenobi or someone like that for guidance, and maybe learning a big lesson of her own. That
maybe speaking to I mean, obviously that like some seeds have already been planted there with Obi-Wan, but maybe Ahsoka, bringing this up to Obi-Wan and saying, what I saw there scared me. I didn't like that. That's a side of Anakin that I've never seen. And Obi-Wan being like, okay, this is alarming. Maybe this is something to keep an eye on. And that's what ultimately leads Obi-Wan to be like, right, okay, this, Anakin's maybe straying a little bit too close, and we need to,
I always like to think that Obi-Wan's well aware of it, but he chooses not to think about it because of his brotherly connection to Anakin. Yeah.
Maybe mention it to Mace Windu or something, so that at least Mace Windu is justified in his hate for Anakin.
That cunt will never be justified in his hate for Anakin.
Sorry if
when it comes to internet arguments, ladies and gentlemen, you get all these people that are character stans because they love a character so much. I am a Mace Windu is dead stan, okay? Fucking accept it. Yeah, he died. He didn't just fall because everyone's like, oh, anybody can survive a fall. No, he got electrocuted to shit and flung for miles across a skyline of a city that is like thousands of meters high. That's a hill I will die on. Because
I hope his body didn't just land on someone. Just
oh no. See, the ending
it'd be like Robot Chicken where it just lands.
Yeah, that's the canon ending. That is the canon ending. He just gets swept into the trash.
You've got some very, very strong feelings on Mace Windu, James. Talk to us.
Oh man,
no, he's a dick. I'm with James on that.
Me and Matt Lenter spoke about this in length at Celebration, and he was in complete agreement that if Mace Windu showed an ounce of emotion to Anakin, an ounce of respect or acceptance, then it might have completely changed his turn to the dark side. Because in that moment when you've got Palpatine and Mace Windu arguing between him, it doesn't. This Anakin isn't your traditional Jedi. He's not standing there weighing up good and evil. He's standing there weighing up what these people have done for him throughout his life. And Palpatine is arguably the closest thing that Anakin has come to a father figure, except from Obi-Wan. But argument for it, he was always the brother, not the father.
Yeah.
And then you've got Mace Windu, who's just some playground bully. So I think I'd have cut his hand off and fucking wanted to save my wife at that point.
Yeah.
He's just like heard Sidious say,
principle that's always a prick.
Yeah. In his head, he's going, well, Mace Windu's just heard Palpatine say to me, I have the power to save the one you love. He's fully aware that I've just been a Jedi sleep around. If I let him live and kill my friend over here, then nothing good's going to come of that for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's throughout the Clone Wars, you see it. He has no trust in R2 when they're trapped in the Venator.
I'm reading Rise of the Red Blade at the moment, and even in that book, being pretty much new, even then Mace Windu is portrayed as like an emotionless, completely unempathetic twat. Basically, he's a knobhead. But
he's got a purple lightsaber, guys. He's so cool. Fuck off.
Tell us how you really feel, James.
I can't stand Mace Windu. I've got to be honest. Just the fact of how he talks to Ahsoka in the Clone Wars did it. For me.
Yeah. Oh
It's like
man.
Citizen. It's like
Yeah, dick move.
The fate of the galaxy rested on one sentence, and he fucking blew it.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a piece. He's a piece of work.
He's
Very rude. He's a very rude man.
He's the Commander Fox. He's the Commander Fox of the Jedi Order.
The Jedi.
Yes, he is,
He has a
Dan.
purpose, but
He's the job's
he's
worth.
wrong. He's a
He's the
job's
job's
worth.
worth.
That's it.
Oh dear. Yeah, going back
Doesn't
to
help that Star Wars theory sucks him off. You know, that just makes you dislike a character all the more.
True.
Yeah, going back to Ahsoka.
When we talk about Ahsoka, and we like, obviously, I think the decision is unanimous that we absolutely loved it. But just flicking through some of the stills that I've gathered for this, like, what are some of your favorite scenes from the show? Like, what? I'm not going to go into too much. I don't want to go into too much detail about each and every episode and each and every scene and each and every character. Like, I just want to get your guys' overall thoughts. Like, what are some scenes that like really stood out to you? What did you take away from that as a okay, that's going to be an iconic Star Wars scene for a few years to come? Like, what really?
A long time ago in a galaxy
Yeah.
far away. Oh,
David Tennant's going to get tired of writing that one on 8x10s at conventions, let me tell you.
yeah.
I loved it though.
Yeah.
Like, it was
Perfect.
literally that moment, wasn't it? Of he said the thing, and for it to be the first time that it's ever spoken on screen in a Star Wars, in any Star Wars media, was just.
I teared up at it. I don't know why. I'm like, why am I tearing up at this?
It was just in that moment. It was just like encapsulated in that cockpit, in the depths of space. Like, it was just unreal.
It's like, it's a story of 3 parts. It's like,
Yeah. I loved it.
I liked two sort of little things that are quite controversial. I like Sabine using the Force to take a lightsaber. That felt, let's face it, everybody was whinging about it on the internet, but it makes sense for that to be her main connection through the Force.
It worked well.
Yeah, you all know how kyber crystals resonate through the Force, and that is a reflection of the connection to the Force that the Jedi has. So for that to be the first thing that she can, actually reach out and pull to her, that just made sense to me. And this scene here, Steve, that you've got up now, actually, when you've got Ahsoka and Ezra deflecting the blasters, and she goes, "Oh, Sabine blasters," and she pulls the blasters out, and you've got one Jedi one side, one the other. That is the fucking sword and shield maneuver from the episode of Rebels. It was the Clone Wars anniversary episode when you got Rex, Kanan, and Ezra, sword and shield maneuver. Ezra's like, "What's that?" He blasts, we deflect, and that just went over like everyone's head, and I loved it.
Think of, Mandalorian, where she's like, "Oh, a Jedi and a Mandalorian, no one will ever see it coming."
Yeah.
Oh
man.
Your knowledge, James, honestly, is continually unexpected.
See what you did there.
Yeah, man, you bring a whole. You are literally like the fountain of knowledge when it comes to how things have been bridged together, how things link, how things tie into one another. Like, it absolutely blows my mind that you are so. I'm not saying invested, like, because I don't want to say like I'm amazed at how invested you are in Star Wars, because I think that's why we're all here. But the fact that the details that you remember and that you can recall are just absolutely unreal, man. So I've just got to give
this is my life, man. I mean, this is like the epicenter of happiness for me. I'm really glad that this is live and it's recorded, because I can show that to my mum now and just prove to her that all of this effort is not wasted at all. And she should definitely not be concerned that I just watch the same programs all the time.
Star Wars got me a job, man. So
That's it, man. You'll live in the dream out
I'm
there,
not
man.
working in a place called Kessel Run because
Yeah.
I studied hard. Like,
Oh, man.
well,
No, I'm glad it's appreciated. I really am. It's very touching to know that it's not just info dump all the time, because obviously
Absolutely not.
I've been brought up in an environment where I'm constantly told, all right, you're talking too much now. Give your arse a chance, is normally the response that I get given. So, no, man, I'm just glad to be of service, I guess.
Dude, it is appreciated. It really is, because especially like, I think for me, when watching Ahsoka, one of the things that it was during the run up to the finale. I was like, God, I'm doing myself a disservice by not going back and rewatching stuff, because one of my issues is the fact that, like, I'll only watch stuff once for the most part. Like, I make exceptions for the movies and stuff because I've got a very short attention span. So what will tend to happen is I'll watch a movie numerous times, like all the Star Wars movies I've watched. Oh God, I've lost count. But with the shows, because some of them are so long and they take up so much time, I only tend to watch each episode once. And unless something really sticks and resonates with me, when it comes to referencing it again later on down the line, I'll be sat there and I'll be thinking, I should know what this is and I should know what this is about, but I don't. And there's details missing from my brain that I can't recall. And one of the things that really panicked me during the lead up to the ending of Ahsoka was, if they bring back the Mortis gods, I'm going to be like, I need to go back and rewatch it, because there's things about that story arc that I can't remember. So to have you on these streams when we're talking about this, refreshing the memory, it's like I don't need to go back and watch it because James has already told me about it. So it is appreciated, because you're the textbook that I would revise from for my GCSE. So I appreciate it, man. It's all good.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, I mean, just to summarize, I mean, I think we've pretty much all made our feelings known on Ahsoka. Like, it was absolutely amazing. I think for me, one of the things about it was the fact that, and I think we spoke about this at length in one of the previous streams as well, is that there has been a bit of a disconnect for me in terms of animated characters making the transition into live action. And one of the things that I touched on in one of the last streams we did was that, for me, there's always been a bit of a disconnect between Anakin in the Clone Wars and Anakin in the prequels. Like, they almost feel like two separate characters at points. But what Hayden Christensen did in Ahsoka was bridge those two together incredibly well. And going back to that whole disconnection between live action and animation, I think getting Ezra Bridger into live action finally, what I loved about that, and Sabine as well, and the rest of the Rebels crew, like, there wasn't, at no point during the Ahsoka series was there a disconnect. Like, I felt like these were the characters that I knew from the animation. This felt like a continuation of Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah.
It never once felt like I was watching something that was removed from what I'd already seen put together in animation. Like, I can't stress enough, like, how perfect each and every character's portrayal in this show was, be it new character, animation to live action. Like, it's been an absolute joy to watch. It's been so fun, and I think that's one of the main things that I've taken away from it, is that every episode has been fun.
Yeah,
you know, it's taken. I've taken something away from each episode. I've looked forward to something after each episode, and I'm just so excited to see where it goes next. Be it a second season, be it the Filoni movie that's going to tie up the Mandoverse, as it were. I'm here for it, and I just want to see where this story goes and where it ultimately ends. And I think there's an untapped amount of potential there to tell numerous different stories going forward. I mean, the fact that we've now visited a new galaxy is that opens up a whole new book of stories in terms of where we can go with the Star Wars universe, where we can go with characters, new characters, old characters. Like, I think it's just done such a good job of just opening everything up and saying this is where Star Wars is going forward. This is the future of Star Wars, and I think we've just seen it right in front of our faces. And that's what I've taken away from it, is the fact that this is setting up, for the Mandalorian and for the Bad Batch and all that sort of stuff. You kind of have this preconception of where the story is ultimately going to end. So for me, like with the Mandalorian, it was always, this is just going to end at the sequels. This is just filling that gap. With the Bad Batch, it's like, this is just filling that gap between the Clone Wars and the original trilogy. There's always just been that, like, there's a starting point and an end point. With Ahsoka, I genuinely feel like this isn't going to end with the sequels. I feel like this is going to transcend the Rise of Skywalker. This is going to be the jumping off point for most of the new Star Wars stories that we're going to get in the years to come. And that's what I've taken away from it, at least. Like, there might not be anything in particular that I want to say, yeah, I love this scene, yeah, I love that scene. It's just the overall feeling I've come away from after watching this series is, this is the future of the franchise, and we've seen it unravel, and I am here for it, man. I'm here for it.
Yeah, for the love of God, Bob Iger, pay your actors fairly, because if I have to wait 4 years for a second season of this, I think I'm going to come and find you myself and shake the loose change out of your pockets.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, greedy Bob.
Yeah, writers have got a deal now, haven't they? Writers have got a good deal, so it's just the actors that are left fighting, unfortunately. But I've heard, I don't know if it's of any interest to you guys, I was just reading something random the other day, that a lot of big name actors, just Scarlett Johansson being one of them was a name that stood out, they're actually putting forward a plan to all these unions that the lower paid actors on whatever movie they're doing get a higher residual amount compared to the leads, and they were hoping that gets put through and a possible deal could get made off that. And then I mean, let's face it, all of these big names get a very generous amount in the actual paycheck for doing the project to begin with. So if it's the people behind the scenes and the extras that get the majority of the residuals, it's truly balancing the scales, and hopefully it means more positive things for the industry going forward, especially if we get stuff like this delivered to us.
Absolutely.
Big time.
Agreed. But just to like in conclusion, with regards to Ahsoka, where do you guys sort of see it going? I mean, obviously me and Dan and James have really spoken at length about where we see the story that has been set up in Ahsoka eventually leading. I think one of the general consensus amongst the three of us is that whatever Thrawn is cooking up is ultimately going to be a story point that continues post Rise of Skywalker. Be it, I mean, one of the things I've always said is I hope that Thrawn is aware of some form of threat that is ultimately going to bring both sides of the coin together, and both not imperial, but like bad guys and good guys coming together and fighting a threat bigger than themselves. That's the way I would like it to go. I think that's a point that the three of us have for the most part concluded. But what about you, Jesse? Like, where, I'm keen to get your thoughts. Like, where do you see this going? Like, do you see a second season? Do you see this story concluding in the Filoni movie? Where do you see the story going, and what ultimately what are your hopes that we get from this? Like, what sort of conclusion to this tale are you hoping for in terms of where it goes in the end?
Yeah, like you guys have spent a lot of time thinking about it, and I don't know, the kind of way I'd like to see it go is it sort of splinter off into multiple stories, and it's still somehow sort of come out and come back around to meet at the same points again, because there's a couple of plot threads obviously left sort of open at the end here, and Baylan Skoll is probably the biggest one, given Ray Stevenson and the situation of his passing. That's obviously going to play a big part. I think the majority are open to recasting just to continue on with the character. I think at some point characters need to become bigger than the actors that portray them, which is why we have Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka now. It's gone past Ashley. It's now part of her as well. In terms of story threads, it definitely opens it up to go in multiple directions, multiple different lengths of time. Could even go concurrent to Rise of Skywalker, crossovers with post Rise of Skywalker. It's really an open book, and I'm more than happy just to go along for the ride, to be honest, at the moment, because you're doing Ahsoka season 2. You could go focus on Ahsoka, Sabine, maybe something will cross over there with Skeleton Crew, who knows. But then you could pick up Ezra's story back with the New Republic, and there was one little moment at the end of the series that I would have loved to seen, is his reunion with Hera. If they were given just a few more minutes, and Hera, for Ezra to be introduced to the son of his master, that would have been an emotional punch. That would have got the tears flowing if if little Jason walked out from behind Hera and just been like, I don't know. I had this idea of like Ezra maybe sensing Kanan, and he says like, I sense Kanan, sort of thing, and then have Jason walk out, and just that connection between Ezra and Jason just hit straight away. I reckon that would have been an incredible emotional moment. But I think that'll come. I just think to bookend that series, that would have been a nice little moment. But
just touching on that, Jesse, I like to think that Luke Skywalker isn't the sole heir and responsibility to ensuring the Jedi Order continues, because
I agree 100%.
If Ahsoka is on Peridia, and that's where the Force wills her to be, then it's also the will of the Force that it were Ezra to make it back to our galaxy, shall we dub it. So for him to train Jason as safeguarding the future of the Jedi Order, but passing on what Kanan taught him, that's just
it opens
poetry to me, man.
Yeah, it starts opening up the galaxy of, you go forward 100 years and you've got, maybe, Jason Syndulla is now, you've got a Syndulla saga, following series of movies with Jason, as this Jedi Master, and then, his old Ezra, and then you've maybe got Cal Kestis doing his own thing in this part of the galaxy, and they're all in these different circumstances, and it really does. It just opens it up for so many story possibilities, not just sort of focusing on Luke and what he's doing. Like, it doesn't make him the central sort of Jedi plot thread for the galaxy. There are lots more pockets out there that may not call themselves Jedi, but
I think that's one of the things, isn't it? I think with Star Wars going forward, I think we all need to come to terms with the fact that in the grand scheme of things, the Skywalker saga and the Skywalkers in general are a very small part of the story. Well, they're not, obviously. They're a crucial part of the story, but in regards to the story evolving, they're a cog.
You've got to go beyond that,
in a much bigger machine.
The wider picture, and we've seen that with all the media. We've seen it with Andor. We've seen it with the little guy who rises up to the ranks in the rebellion. You've seen it with Ahsoka, where it's a group of characters, and on paper, small picture in the galaxy, but towards it's huge, and it's just it's adding to that multifaceted, layered.
You even think of Broom Boy, which is at this
Broom
point very
Boy.
much a throwaway. This one is very much a throwaway, but that's a story thread that they might pick up in 15 years.
And that's just a little thing about that. The thing that annoyed me with fans was, I say fans, the casuals, who were like, "Oh, that's stupid." It's like, no, because Broom Boy is us.
Yeah.
He is us. We relate to him because we're the ones looking up to the stars, like seeing adventures, hearing these stories about Luke Skywalker.
Still hope.
There's still hope. Beautiful. That's that scene is so important.
That scene always echoed to me what Leia tells Poe Dameron about. I can't quote it spot on, but it's about like light always being in the. You guys know where I'm getting at. It's the The more I try and
Right.
think about it, the less I fucking remember, typically.
Yeah.
But
Anakin sort of taught Ahsoka the same thing that Rey was taught in, or that Yoda taught Luke in Last Jedi. Is this, the whole "we are what we grow beyond." It's you may feel responsible for fixing everything, but you're not. You just need to, that whole thing of passing on and continuing on. Like it's as long as the creatives that are sitting there writing this shit down are watching us, like if they're on,
We can hope.
if they're on a similar wavelength to what we've been talking about tonight, I think we've got a lot to look forward to in the future.
Yeah, I think it's in very, very safe and capable hands now, like we were talking about earlier when we touched on the sequels and what have you. I think if everything that we've complained about post Disney was being made now, I don't think there'd be as much of a divisive feeling amongst the fandom. But I think going forward, I think the only people that I've seen, at least from what I've read, that have criticised any part of Ahsoka are casual fans that maybe aren't as familiar with the animated shows and what have you. The diehards, the Sith Lord 229s, the Robo Quiff Collects, the Daniel East 1000s, and the Forces with Jesses of the world. I think we've all unanimously decided that we absolutely loved it, and that Star Wars is in very, very safe hands going forward. I'm very excited for all the future projects that we've got to look forward to. I think for me, going back to what we were talking about with the sequel trilogy, and despite some of those negative feelings, one of the projects that I'm the most looking forward to is the movie that's going to focus on Rey and everything that happens post Rise of Skywalker. It's one of the things that I was looking most forward to with Rangers of the new. Oh no, it wasn't Rangers of the New Republic. It was Rogue Squadron that got shelved. I was really looking forward to that because that was going to be a post Rise of Skywalker story. So anything that comes after the sequel trilogy, especially given what we've had set up in Ahsoka, I think I'm really, really excited for. So, and with the amount of creators that they've got on board now, like Bryce Dallas Howard, Rick, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his surname because I'll butcher it and I don't want to dishonor him.
I've practiced a lot.
All those guys that have worked on The Mandalorian and on Book of Boba Fett and on Ahsoka, I can't wait to see what they come up with next. I really can't.
With you.
So, yeah, I think it's in a very, very good place. A very, very good place. That is, I think, going to wrap us up because we're closing in on 3 hours. I was hoping that this would only run as a couple. So I'm going to let you guys go about your day. James, have you got anything to plug, mate? Any content? We want that Clone Wars retrospective. When's that coming, man?
I don't know. Just like all these writers and actors guild strikes, there's a mental strike in James's brain most days after work. So
it's called
that's it, man.
Bullshit.
If and when. I want to do a video before Christmas because, like I told you guys last time, I've got a couple of weeks off, but I don't know if I've got the actual product to do a Clone Wars video justice. I still haven't got any Clone Wars figures with the Darth Maul or the Yoda packaging, and there's still some like big ticket items that I want to get first. I don't know. I want it to be something worthwhile of making a video on. I don't want to just rush it out in time for just to get it done when I haven't got everything to do it. So I don't know. I'll try and do something for Christmas, even if it's just a little collection update or just me sat on my floor talking bollocks for 10 minutes. I don't know. We'll see. Just Instagram as normal. If anybody wants to see my cryptic opinion and physical lack of money in bank account.
It manifests on his shelves, guys. Dan, I know you've got a new Joy of Miniature Painting video to plug, so tell us about that, mate. What's that all about?
There's a new Joy of Miniature Painting video. I literally say, I don't know if there's any meaning behind it. I just paint some minis, that's all it is. And then last night...
story, Dan.
It's about storytelling, about creating characters. So if you want to watch that, you can go watch that. I've also done my first Indiana Jones figure review on everyone's favourite, is he a Nazi, isn't he a Nazi, he is a Nazi, Jorgenvaller is on my YouTube channel, and you can watch that.
Good stuff. And there's another Joy of Miniature Painting video coming up.
There is
very,
another
very
Joy
soon.
Miniature. There it is.
If I can brave the floods, I'll try and get out later today and drop this one off because I would like to see it when I get back from my jollies. But I'm very excited about that one. Jesse, what about you? I mean, I know you're consistently updating us on the progress of your new Star Wars collection room, which is looking absolutely amazing, by the way.
Thank you. No, it's been a fun project. You know, going through about 18 months of having everything in storage, dealing with separation and lawyers and all that bullshit. To actually have a room here to come and hang out again, you know, have time to come and chat with lads like yourself. It's made life very, very, very enjoyable once again after a pretty tough year and a half. But yeah, just trying to keep with, you know, just keeping my YouTube active.
Congrats on 5,000 subscribers as well, man.
Thank you. Yeah, hit that a couple of weeks ago. That was pretty exciting. I still can't believe I got over like 20, but
well, I think we're all there on that
good. That's why we're here to, like, you know, made friendships with people. That's the best thing about it. But yeah, unfortunately, it is an expensive hobby to have, as we all know. But I also know I'm not alone, and I could be on meth instead. So it's a healthy hobby.
How's the collection room coming along? Have you made any more progress on it recently, or because I saw the short you did of the Clone Wars setup that you've got going on? I'm loving that.
Yeah, so basically that's everything is set up. I've got my first lighting kit on its way. One of them was you directed me towards the Abu or whatever they are on Amazon.
Oh yeah, the spotlights.
Yeah, so I found some bar lights that so they're about that long, and there's 8 of them. So that's going to go on my sort of Black Series shelf behind me there. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, that'll be nice and lit. And then I can start work on the lighting of my 3 3/4 stuff as well. Yeah, I got a few other little bits and pieces I want to do in here, but you know, collection room is never complete. So
no.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I'm hoping to have lighting and all that and have a nice room tour video before the end of the year. So
nice.
It's been a couple of years, so that should be good fun.
Awesome. Very excited for that, mate. Very, very excited indeed. Leathery Man has just dropped by some insightful chat bios. Thank you. We try our best.
Appreciate it.
So yeah, that's just about going to wrap us up. Thank you, as always, to James and Dan for joining me. And Jesse, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back.
No, thank you guys for having me back on. Love chatting with you guys. It's I've had a pretty rough week. I've been crook most of the week, so this has been something to look forward to. On the other hurdle of the of feeling better now. So yeah, this has definitely been a well valued 3 hours of my time. So
awesome.
Definitely appreciate it.
Good to hear, man. Always glad to have you.
Yeah, happy to be of service. No doubt we'll catch up again in the future. Hopefully, when there's some more product reveals and some more juicy stuff to talk about, we'll get you on again. We've still got a list of people we need to get through and get on one of these things in the future. But yeah, hopefully we'll probably get another one out by Christmas. I dare say there'll be something to talk about by then. But in the meantime, yeah, thank you for joining me, guys. Thanks for indulging. And we will see you all. Thank you to the guys who have watched. On the next one, if you can catch this on replay as well, always appreciated. In post, links will go on screen for all the lovely stuff that these guys have plugged away. So yeah, we'll see you all soon. Until next time, keep collecting. And may the force be with you.
Force be with you. Bye-bye.
Ta-ta.
Breaking all units. Fire at will. Pick your target. Want to stabilize the gold cliffs. Anybody cover me. I don't suppose they've got my tail. You're gonna hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. Okay. Wait for reinforcements.
To see Thrawn on a vintage card is awesome. I would prefer a live action one.
Oh, geez. Oh, my goodness. So I'll keep it away from my dog.
Don't go and do that, please.
You do whatever you like.
We can't condone anything of the sort.
No, we can't. Live!
It's live!
fucking good. That